HeyMax and Taiwan, the complete strategic analysis. This is an independent analysis of HeyMax and Taiwan, researched in August 2026 from public sources. It is the 6th volume in a series, and it examines a category the series has not met yet: the promised market. Taiwan is one of exactly 3 markets HeyMax has publicly committed to launching: Japan, Taiwan, and Australia, by the end of 2026, in the words of its Series A announcement. Of those 3, it is the one the evidence says the company has prepared least. It was also, in one press release this March, quietly left off the list. And yet, buried in HeyMax's transfer roster, signed sometime around May of this year and announced to nobody, sits a live one-to-one rail into EVA Air's mileage program, hosted, complete with a Chinese-language transfer guide, on EVA's own website. HeyMax bought an option on Taiwan and has paid nothing else toward exercising it. This volume is about what that option is worth. In a market that is simultaneously a card superpower, a cashback culture that audits rebate rates to 2 decimal places, a points war among 8 platforms with 10 million members each, and home to the single busiest travel corridor in HeyMax's world. The 6.75 million Taiwanese trips to Japan a year that its Japan Airlines rail already serves. Same ground rules as every volume, sources for every claim, labels on every estimate, absences documented precisely. 20 chapters. At the end, a verdict on the promise, the entry actually worth doing, the falsifiers, and what 6 volumes now say about promises, options, and anchors. Let's begin. Chapter 1. The card superpower with a cashback soul. Taiwan is the most heavily carded market this series has ever visited, and almost none of that firepower is pointed at airline miles. Start with the raw numbers, because they are genuinely startling. The Financial Supervisory Commission's December statistics for 2025 count 60.49 million credit cards in force, 40.55 million of them active, in a country of 23.4 million people. Card spending hit a record 4.99 trillion new Taiwan dollars in 2025, up 6.4%, which is roughly 156 billion US dollars, and cards carried 57% of all non-cash payment value. Per capita, this outcards Singapore. It outcards Hong Kong. It outcards Australia. If card saturation were the metric, Taiwan would be the most HeyMax-ready market in the portfolio. It is not, because the soul of this market is the rebate, the cashback, the guaranteed percentage returned, and the entire apparatus of Taiwanese card sophistication has been trained on maximizing cashback rather than accumulating miles. That inversion is the first thing anyone entering this market has to understand, and it is the lens for everything else in this volume. What does the sophistication look like in practice? It looks like what Taiwanese card forums call God cards, a title the community awards and revokes with the seriousness of a rating agency. The current trio for 2026 is instructive. Cathay United's Cube card pays around 3.3% in Little Tree points, the bank's own reward currency, with reward levels the user switches between. Taishan's Richart card, the recent consolidation of 5 separate cards into one, pays up to roughly 3.8% at 60-plus designated merchants, with an extra kicker through line pay linkage. eSun's Unicard runs up to about 4.5% in eSun, points across customizable categories. Notice what all 3 have in common. They are capped, conditional, category-switching machines. None of them simply pays you a rate. They pay you a rate if you toggled the right plan, at the right merchant, under the right cap, in the right month. Taiwanese bloggers have a phrase for the trap, plan switching, and an entire literature on its pitfalls. The culture that grew around these cards is forensic in a way I have not seen since Singapore, and arguably beyond it. Rebate rates are tracked to 2 decimal places. In a September 2025 thread on the PTT Forum's credit card board, a thread lamenting that no-brainer cashback is disappearing, repliers cite 1.2%, 1.3%, and one card's 1.22% with no cap, all from memory, the way other people recall sports statistics. promotions mostly require manual registration, a ritual so pervasive that a veteran writer, the registration tracker blog Fuma Memory, built a durable audience on nothing more than a monthly consolidated registration deadline tracker. Stacking is a competitive sport. The same thread celebrates the triple combo of e-payment rewards on top of card rewards on top of digital bank deposit rewards, and fatigue is the shadow side. One replier's confession has stayed with me. As that user put it, translated, when I see the dense wall of toggle text, I just close the page. This is a market of auditors who are tired of auditing. Why did Cashback win so completely? The arithmetic is unsentimental. Taiwanese airline co-brand cards typically earn a mile per 20 Taiwan dollars of domestic spending and a mile per 10 Taiwan dollars overseas. By community consensus, that is roughly 2 to 3 times worse per dollar than the Singapore Miles cards I wrote about 3 volumes ago. The community's own valuations put a miles redemption value between 0.3 of a Taiwan dollar for short-haul economy and 1.5 Taiwan dollars or more for long-haul business class. Run the division, and a miles card returns somewhere between 1.5% and 15% of spend. But the top of that range is available only to optimizers who can find and book premium cabin awards, while a God card's 3+% is guaranteed and liquid. The PTT forum's working norm is blunt. An airline co-brand only makes sense above 400,000 Taiwan dollars of annual spend and 3 flights a year. Another poster draws the class line even more starkly. Only past 300,000 Taiwan dollars a month do you stop playing no-brainer Cashback and bring out the miles cards. Miles in Taiwan are a big spender's game by design because the earn rates price them that way. And yet the niche exists, and its plumbing is more interesting than its size. The issuer map is tidy. CTBC holds both the ANA and China Airlines co-brands. Cathay United holds EVA. eSun holds Starlux. More telling is where flexibility lives, which is entirely inside banks. HSBC Taiwan's Travelers Card Series converts its points into 16 partner mileage programs reaching 80-plus airlines, and the community has duly crowned it a Miles God card. Cathay United's Little Tree points transfer to EVA, to Asia Miles, and to China Airlines, plus hotel programs, with periodic transfer bonuses reaching 75%. Taishan's bank points exchange with line points, with Happy Geo, and with China Airlines Miles. Huanan Bank will move your bank bonus points into Asia Miles, provided you submit the request by fax. I am not exaggerating for effect. The fax machine is load-bearing. Every ingredient of a flexible miles currency exists in Taiwan today, scattered across bank products with user experiences straight out of the 1990s, and no one has assembled them into a platform with merchant earn. Then there is the ceiling, where the story turns almost poignant. Taiwan's most capable optimizers, the very people who would be a Miles platform's evangelists, have concluded the domestic game is not worth playing, and they have defected. The PTT line that crystallizes it, translated, is switched to American cards, and everything you swipe smells great. An entire cottage economy serves this defection. Trip Plus, the market's most authoritative Miles voice, builds its audience on EVA and China Airlines redemption guides while earning its actual revenue on American credit card affiliate bounties for Chinese-speaking readers in North America. Think about what that means structurally. The domestic market's top tier generates enough demand for transferable, high-value miles that a venture-backed content company monetizes it by exporting it. The bottom and middle of the market are locked in the cashback machine. The top has emigrated to Amex and Chase. And the space between weak local miles cards and high-friction American ones sits empty. The contrast with earlier volumes sharpens the picture. Singapore is Taiwan's mirror image. Comparable card sophistication, opposite currency, with banks competing on miles per dollar and cashback treated as the unsophisticated choice. Hong Kong at least had Asia Miles as a default answer to the question of what your points are for. The Philippines had thin card penetration, but real aspiration. Taiwan is the strange fourth case. world-leading card saturation, world-class points literacy, and a value system in which miles are a niche dialect spoken fluently only by people rich enough to ignore the earn rates or determined enough to leave the system. Nowhere else in this series has the gap between capability and orientation been this wide. Taiwan does not need to be taught points. It needs to be offered a reason to point them somewhere better. So what does this mean for HeyMax? 3 things, and they set the terms for every chapter that follows. First, the pitch must be delivered in the market's native language, which is the rebate, not wanderlust. A percentage back, expressed as Taiwan dollars per mile at each merchant, published transparently. Because the 2-decimal auditors of the PTT forum will compute it themselves within a day of launch, and any gap between marketing and math will become a thread with 1,000 readers. Second, the product's differentiation here is the absence of the machinery Taiwan is exhausted by. No caps, no plan switching toggles, no registration rituals. In a market with documented complexity fatigue, friction removal is not a feature. It is the feature. Third, the target is the starved middle. The millions of cardholders who fly to Japan every year, who cannot justify a co-brand's 400,000 Taiwan dollar threshold, and who are never going to apply for a Chase card. For them, a rebate that flies, cashback grade simplicity that settles in transferable miles, is a genuinely new proposition in the most points-literate market HeyMax has ever considered. The superpower is real. The soul is cashback. The play is to speak to the soul while quietly upgrading what it gets paid in. Chapter 2: 3 Airlines, 3 Postures. The fastest way to read an aviation market, I have learned across 5 volumes, is not fleet size and not passenger counts. It is posture. What is each airline's loyalty program actually doing to the people who trust it? By that reading, Taiwan is unusually legible. 3 full-service carriers are holding 3 incompatible postures at the very same moment. EVA Air is tightening. China Airlines is, against every regional trend, enhancing. And Starlux, listed, newly profitable, and freshly rejected by the world's alliances, is standing alone with a loyalty program that has, verifiably, 0 transfer partners. The posture map, not the route map, is what decides who needs HeyMax, and Taiwan's map contains something no other market in this series has offered. An empty seat, shaped almost exactly like the one velocity occupied in the Australia volume. Take the fortress first. EVA Air has been a full-star alliance member since 2013 and is in the middle of an aggressive long-haul build-out. A November 2023 order of 33 Airbus aircraft worth around $10.1 billion, with 18 A351,000 widebodies arriving from 2026, plus new Dallas and Washington, D.C. routes launched in late 2025 and the middle of 2026. More widebodies, more premium cabins, more award seats in theory. But on the 1st of September, 2025, EVA rewrote its Star Alliance Partner Award rules. The furthest point on an itinerary now defines the turnaround. Per-segment caps apply. Stopovers max out at 2. Cross-continental detours are simply gone. The community's verdict, delivered in a deep rules analysis at the blog Boarding Uswa, came down to a single phrase, translated, sealing off the creative plays. This is the posture of an airline that knows its miles are in demand and has decided to ration them. Worth noting alongside that, EVA quietly runs the most built-out first-party earn stack in Taiwan. A white-labeled online mileage mall, its own e-commerce platform, a duty-free shop where miles offset payment. EVA does loyalty commerce deals, and, as the record chapters of this volume will show, it does them without press releases. The fortress is closed to romantics and open to counterparties. China Airlines is the countertrend, and the community noticed precisely because it is a countertrend. The SkyTeam member, Taiwan's first carrier in a global alliance back in 2011, with a dynasty flyer program dating to 1993, spent late 2025 doing things almost no airline does anymore. It became the first Taiwanese carrier to adopt a membership status point system, decoupling elite qualification from raw miles and segments. It widened what miles can buy, adding hotels, everyday purchases, and the ability to top up and revive expired balances. And it improved its online mall redemption ratio from 100 new Taiwan dollars to 120 Taiwan dollars per 1,000 miles. Taiwanese card bloggers wrote it up with audible surprise. One headline, translated, read, "China Airlines is actually operating in reverse." I want to be fair to the enhancement while keeping perspective. 120 Taiwan dollars per 1,000 miles is still a dismal 0.12 Taiwan dollars a mile. The mall remains Burnside only, with no earn portal at all, and the external plumbing is shrinking rather than growing. American Express dropped its China Airlines relationship in 2024, and no bridge exists from Happy Geo, the coalition right next door. So China Airlines' posture is friendly but inward. It is making its own members' miles nicer to hold. It is not making its program easier for outsiders to feed. A goodwill posture and a closed one. Then there is Starlux, and here the volume's plot thickens. On paper, Starlux in 2026 is a success story compressed, founded as Taiwan's boutique premium carrier. Listed on the Taiwan Stock Exchange in October 2024 under ticker 2646. Profitable, with roughly 44 billion Taiwan dollars in fiscal 2025 revenue. 34 Airbus aircraft flying and 42 more on order. A North American expansion covering Los Angeles, San Francisco, Seattle, Ontario, and Phoenix, with Sydney planned for 2027. The card blogger known as Pokémon wrote in April 2026 that Starlux has completed what the public calls the Big Three, alongside EVA and China Airlines, despite its size. But its loyalty program, COSMILE, is institutionally alone. Starlux applied to join Oneworld and was denied in June 2026. Its partnerships are bilateral only, Alaska, Etihad, American. And here is the fact I keep returning to, confirmed against the transfer partner database points-literate. COSMILE has 0 transfer partners today. Not few. 0. No bank currency, no coalition point, no flexible program anywhere on Earth currently transfers into COSMILE. For a listed airline filling premium cabins across the Pacific, that is not a quirk. It is a strategic wound, and Starlux has compounded it with a self-inflicted one. Months after eSun launched its COSMILE co-brand card, Starlux raised Asia Region Round-Trip Economy awards from 30,000 to 35,000 miles, drawing public criticism from exactly the early adopters a young program needs. A charming product, and the family mileage pool is genuinely popular, attached to a program that has burned trust at home and been refused membership abroad. Readers of the Australia volume will recognize the shape of this. My verdict there hinged entirely on one counterparty. Velocity, the number 2 program hungry enough to deal. No deal, no entry. Taiwan reproduces that logic with the valence reversed. Virgin Australia was a recovering incumbent that HeyMax needed more than it needed HeyMax. Starlux is a premium challenger that needs what HeyMax does, which is external demand feeding its program, more than HeyMax needs any single airline. A first-ever transfer partner is a fundamentally different proposition from a 15th. It is instant differentiation for both sides. And the warm path exists because Etihad, Starlux's codeshare partner since June 2025, is the very airline I recommended as HeyMax's anchor in the UAE Volume 1 book ago. The seat is open. Nobody else appears to be circling it. One coda completes the posture map, and it belongs to the budget end. Tiger Air Taiwan, China Airlines' low-cost subsidiary, carried 3.1 million passengers in 2025 and is comfortably profitable. It serves more Japanese airports than any Taiwanese airline, more than 20 of them, monetizing the island's Japan obsession directly. And its loyalty scheme, Tiger Club, is not a mileage program at all. It returns 1% of ticket spend as Tiger Points, redeemable against fares and add-ons from as little as 100 points. Read that against Chapter 1 and the pattern snaps into place. Even at the airlines, Taiwan's loyalty instinct defaults to the rebate, the cashback, rather than aspirational miles. The carrier flying the most routes to Taiwan's favorite destination speaks Cashback. The premium carriers hoard or polish their miles. Nobody in Taiwanese aviation is building open plumbing. So what does this mean for HeyMax? The posture map is the pitch order, and it writes itself. Starlux is the anchor conversation. Hungry listed, alliance orphaned, partnerless, with premium Trans-Pacific cabins to fill and a trust deficit that a flexibility story, earn everywhere, transfer in at 1-to-1, no lock-in, directly repairs. The pitch practically exists inside Starlux's own investor narrative. HeyMax would be its first external demand channel, and COSMILE's first-ever transfer partner is a headline both companies can sell. EVA is the second conversation, but a different kind of conversation. Not a courtship, a deepening, for reasons the record chapters will make explicit. The rail already exists, and EVA has precedent taking external transfers, including from Capital One and CD. China Airlines is the null. Never a partner, structurally inward, shedding external relationships. File it for a later year and lose no sleep over it. And Tiger Air is a reminder rather than a target. The corridor that matters is Taiwan to Japan, the currency culture is cashback, and any entry that ignores either one is fighting the market's grain. In Australia, I concluded that without velocity there was no entry at all. Taiwan is gentler. The velocity-shaped seat is not merely open. Its occupant-to-be is the one party in the market with no alternative suitor and every incentive to say yes. 3 airlines, 3 postures, and only one of them is a door. Chapter 3, The Superpoints War. Taiwan is running one of the densest retail points economies on Earth. 8 platforms with more than 10 million members each in a country of 23.4 million people. And not one of them converts into airline miles as its core promise. That double fact is this chapter's spine. The war for Taiwan's points wallet is real, escalating, and lavishly funded. And the specific ground HeyMax would want to hold sits outside every combatant's battle plan. Understanding why requires walking the battlefield, because the shape of the war explains both why the miles slot stayed empty and why entering it now is easier than it will ever be again. The framing comes from Taiwan's own business press. Commonwealth magazine devoted its January 2026 cover package to what it called, translated, the new warring states of superpoints. The numbers underneath come from a Taiwanese retail research institute. Taiwan's retail points economy reached 55.3 billion new Taiwan dollars in 2024, up 70% in 5 years. It hit 59.9 billion Taiwan dollars in 2025 and is forecast to reach 77 billion by 2028. Commonwealth's thesis, which I find essentially correct, is that points have become Taiwan's second currency, issued by retailers and platforms instead of a central bank, with the 8 big issuers functioning as rival mints. Walk the 8 because each one teaches something. Line Points is the anchor. 13.6 million users, roughly 7.3 billion points issued a year, accepted at 660,000 merchant touchpoints, with a burn rate near 100%. And, crucially, a fixed peg of 1 point to 1 Taiwan dollar at Line Pay checkout. That peg matters more than the scale, and I will come back to it. OPENPOINT, the uni-president conglomerate's currency, spanning 7-Eleven and the absorbed Carrefour Taiwan, passed 19 million members in late 2025. Its paid tier sold out a 50,000 member cap within months, which is proof that Taiwanese consumers will pay subscription fees for loyalty. Family Mart's FamiPoint claims 16 million members, backed by a joint venture wallet with Taishan that has passed 2 million users. PXMart, the grocery king, counts 18 million and made 2025's most aggressive move. From August, its expanded stores stopped accepting Line Pay, JKOPay, and the other third-party wallets. A deliberate walled garden built to keep the member economy in-house. Happy Geo, the Far Eastern Group's 20-year-old coalition, holds 11 million cardholders at a humbler peg of 4 points to the dollar. with more than 5 billion points worth of consumption trailing through its 20,000-plus partner stores every year. Then the e-commerce trio. Momo Coins, with over 12 million members and a paid tier whose subscribers renew at over 70% and spend 13 times the monthly average. P-Chom's P-Coins, with a punitive 180-day expiry. And Shopee Coins, riding 55.6 million monthly site visits. The Traffic King's coin. The 2026 escalation makes the warring states metaphor literal. OPENPOINT is targeting 7.3 billion points issued, more than triple its 2024 volume, and recruiting Cathay United to issue a co-branded UniOpen card. PXMart is converting its captive welfare points into a universal point spendable across 350-plus brands and 370,000 touchpoints, including utility bills. Cathay United Bank itself now issues around 5 billion points a year and has begun tying insurance wellness programs to points. eSun is consolidating its scattered rewards into a single currency. The most honest sentence in the whole Commonwealth package came from Taishan's payments head, who observed, translated, that building an open point system is no less complex than building a currency clearing system. These companies know exactly what game they are playing. They are playing central bank. Now step back and ask what none of them is doing. Not one of the 8 offers as its core promise conversion into airline miles. The war is fought entirely over daily spend, groceries, convenience stores, delivery, e-commerce, and settled entirely in domestic redemption. The only bridges between Taiwan's points economy and the sky run through banks. HSBC's 16-program transfer menu, Cathay United's Little Tree Points transfers, Taishan's exchange lattice. Bank siloed, card-gated, and completely invisible to the coalition member scanning a barcode at a convenience store. There is one asterisk to this emptiness, a quiet lattice of conversions Cathay Pacific has assembled, and it is important enough to get the next chapter to itself. The contrast with Australia is the sharpest in the series. There, the supermarket coalitions treat an airline transfer as the crown of the loyalty proposition. Flybuys feeding Velocity, the Woolworths program feeding Qantas, because a flight is the one redemption glamorous enough to make grocery points feel like wealth. Taiwan's giants, fighting a bigger war with bigger numbers, stop at the water's edge. Points buy bubble tea, groceries, phone bills. They do not buy Tokyo. In the single market of this series most obsessed with going to Tokyo. Why the slot stayed empty comes down to that line points peg, and it is the strategic crux of the chapter. 1 point equals 1 Taiwan dollar has anchored the entire market to points as cash. Fixed value, instant liquidity, zero ambiguity. It is the same mental model as the rebate culture of Chapter 1. Indeed, it is that culture, tokenized. And it is simultaneously HeyMax's biggest obstacle and its prepaid education. An obstacle, because a mile is a variable value instrument, worth around 0.3 Taiwan dollars in a short-haul economy seat and 1.5 Taiwan dollars or more in long-haul business, and a market anchored to fixed pegs instinctively distrusts a currency that will not quote a price. Prepaid education, because the peg has taught 23 million people to treat points as money worth managing. That is literacy, no prior market handed HeyMax for free. Singapore's optimizers were a sophisticated minority. Taiwan's points consciousness is a mass phenomenon with its own magazine covers. The market does not need convincing that points matter. It needs convincing that some points should fly. One more force is accelerating the war from outside, and that force is Coupang. The Korean e-commerce invader is torching incumbent economics with triple-digit growth and an estimated $900 million or more of segment burn, handing Momo, Taiwan's long-reigning e-commerce #1, its first-ever revenue declines in 2025. Loyalty is the incumbent's fortification of choice, which is precisely why point issuance is climbing toward that 77 billion Taiwan dollar mark. Every defender is spending more on points to hold share. Every point issued deepens the habit. And a defensive incumbent under assault, Momo above all, is exactly the kind of partner that suddenly takes meetings it would have declined in better years. So what does this mean for HeyMax? 3 lessons. First, the negative one, which the research synthesis states plainly and I endorse. Do not fight to be Taiwan's 9th daily spend point. The war is between conglomerates with 19 million member ecosystems, captive retail estates, and balance sheets built for attrition. A foreign startup contesting grocery points share would be annihilated and would deserve it. Second, the positive lesson. Position as the travel conversion layer on top of the war, not as a combatant inside it. The one currency none of the 8 offers is airline miles. The one redemption none of them can manufacture is a flight. Every point in that $59.9 billion economy is feedstock, not competition. A future "can this get me to Japan" question that today has no answer. Third, the framing lesson. Respect the peg. HeyMax should never ask Taiwanese users to abandon points as cash thinking. It should quote miles in the market's own language, Taiwan dollars per mile earned, Taiwan dollar value ranges on redemption, and let the arithmetic show that a well-flown mile beats the peg while a badly flown one does not. The honesty will read as confidence to a market this numerate. The Superpoints war is raising the value of exactly the literacy HeyMax needs, at exactly the moment the combatants are too busy fighting each other to notice that the layer above their heads is unclaimed. Wars like this one do not leave slots open forever. This one is open now. Chapter 4: The Encumbered Slot. The slot HeyMax wants in Taiwan, the layer that converts daily life into airline miles, is empty as a product but encumbered as a partnership map. Because Cathay Pacific's Asia Miles has quietly signed almost every partner HeyMax would want before HeyMax ever looked at the market. That is the uncomfortable discovery of this volume's fieldwork, and it forces a revision of the previous chapter's cheerful conclusion. Nobody in Taiwan offers earn anywhere to any airline. That remains true, and the vacancy remains real. But vacancy and availability are different things, and the difference is a stack of contracts sitting in a Hong Kong incumbent's filing cabinet. Let me first dispose of a naming trap that will confuse every reader of this market, because it confused me. Cathay United Bank, part of Taiwan's Cathay financial conglomerate, is the domestic bank behind the Cube card and the Little Tree points currency. Cathay Pacific is the Hong Kong airline behind Asia Miles. They share an English name and nothing else. This chapter is about the airline, and readers of the Hong Kong volume will feel the irony arriving early. The incumbent I concluded HeyMax could at best finish second behind in its own home market by the end of 2027 turns out to have pre-built the miles layer in Taiwan too. Here is what Cathay Pacific has assembled, verified directly from its Taiwan-facing lifestyle pages in August 2026, under a branding that translates as living the miles life. Start with the coalition bridges quoted on Cathay's own page. Line POINTS, OPENPOINT, Happy GO, UUPON, Rakuten Points, and P-Chome's P-Coins all convert into Asia Miles today. Read that list against the previous chapter's battlefield map. Of Taiwan's warring points platforms, Cathay has signed conversion deals with the Line ecosystem, the Uni-President ecosystem, the Far Eastern Coalition, the EasyCard Venture, Rakuten, and P-Chome. Then the banks. 12 Taiwanese financial partners, including Cathay United, Amex, DBS, CTBC, CD, eSun, Standard Chartered, Hua Nan, Taishan, HSBC, Shanghai Commercial, and Taipei Fubon, allow year-end bank bonus points transfers into Asia Miles, plus 4 insurers. Then daily life. Show your member number at partner restaurants, and 30 Taiwan dollars of dining becomes a mile. Pay with the Cathay United co-brand, and it improves to 25 Taiwan dollars. The co-brand's mileage accelerator earns a mile per 10 Taiwan dollars on domestic categories including Shopee, Klook, JKOPay, and even Tiger Rare and Starlux tickets. The iShop online portal earns on Rakuten Taiwan at 1.75 miles per 100 Taiwan dollars, and on P-Chome Travel. Travel bookings through Agoda, Klook, and JKOPay earn from roughly 40 Taiwan dollars per mile. And even a taxi ride with Taiwan's ubiquitous 55688 fleet earns miles. A Taiwanese startup, Encumbered, even operates a redemption marketplace where Asia Miles buy bubble tea, hot pot, and hotel vouchers at 0.9 to 1.1 Taiwan dollars per mile of face value. And the whole edifice is marketed with a corridor-perfect pitch: 13,000 miles for a Taipei to Tokyo round trip, benchmarked loudly against the 35,000 a traditional program demands. This is not a partnership or two. It is a proto-HeyMax. Earn from shopping, dining, points conversion, and cards. Burn on the routes Taiwanese actually fly. Built patiently in fluent traditional Chinese by the one airline in Asia that fully understands what a lifestyle miles ecosystem is worth. So why hasn't it won the market? Because it is a funnel, not a marketplace, and the funnel's economics are visible to exactly the auditor's Chapter 1 described. Everything converts into one currency, Asia Miles, redeemable at value mostly on one airline group's network. Single destination lock-in as a design principle. The conversion mechanics are clunky serial number request flows on the coalition side and annual batch rituals on the bank side, with Huanan still involving a fax machine. And the rates fail the 2-decimal audit. Happy Geo's verified bridge runs 250 points to 100 miles, which, at Happy Geo's own 4 points per dollar peg, means surrendering 62.5 Taiwan dollars of merchandise value for 100 miles. An effective purchase price around 0.625 Taiwan dollars per mile, which Taiwanese bloggers correctly pan. And Cathay barely markets any of it. The lifestyle pages read like infrastructure waiting for a demand generation budget that never arrived. The result is the strangest competitive object in this series: a comprehensive, live, largely unloved machine. Taiwan's consumers have been taught that life converts to miles by a teacher whose exchange rates they distrust and whose destination they never chose. What does encumbrance actually change? Practically 3 things. First, every partnership conversation HeyMax opens in Taiwan now begins with, "We already do this with Asia Miles." The counterparty has a reference deal, a reference rate, and a procurement memory. That slows sales cycles and anchors terms. Second, unknown paper. I could not establish from public sources whether any of Cathay's conversion agreements carry exclusivity, and prudence says assume some do until proven otherwise. Diligence on that question belongs in any serious entry plan. Third, and cutting the other way, Encumbered is not exclusive as a matter of observed behavior. Happy Geo, the most instructive case, already runs an international interconnect with Docomo's D-Point, reaching more than 40,000 Japanese locations alongside its Asia Miles bridge. Promiscuity is its established habit. UUPON bridges to EVA at 600 points to 250 miles, even while converting to Asia Miles. Taiwan's coalitions, on the evidence, sign multiple conversion deals happily. The fence around the slot is real, but it is low. There is also a genuine gift buried in the encumbrance, and I want to weigh it as heavily as the burden. Cathay has spent years and money teaching Taiwan the core behavior HeyMax needs. That points, dining, and shopping can become miles. In the Philippines volume, I worried about markets where the behavior itself has to be invented, which is the slowest and most expensive kind of entry. Taiwan is the opposite. The behavior exists, the plumbing exists, and what is missing is optionality. So HeyMax's pitch here is not, here is a new idea. It is, same idea, better currency, every airline, an upgrade narrative, which is the cheapest narrative in consumer marketing. Better still, the incumbent's weakness is structural, not executional. Asia Miles cannot offer multi-airline optionality without destroying its own reason for existing. Lock-in is not a bug Cathay can patch. It is the business model. HeyMax attacks exactly the thing the machine cannot change. So what does this mean for HeyMax? Sequencing, above all, root around the paper. The anchor conversations should be with the unencumbered. Starlux, whose COSMILE has 0 transfer partners and appears in Cathay's ecosystem only as a card spend category, and IPASS, newly divorced and unattached, then with the promiscuous. Happy Geo, whose D-point precedent proves a second international partner is a signature away, and whose members currently get a miles bridge they demonstrably consider bad value, improving on 0.625 Taiwan dollars per effective mile is not a high bar. Second, treat Cathay's lattice as the market's price list. Every published conversion rate is a benchmark HeyMax can beat in public, in Taiwan dollars per mile, in front of the auditors. The incumbent has helpfully posted the numbers to beat. Third, expect a response. Cathay is not asleep. The Encumbered marketplace and the co-brand accelerator show ongoing investment, and a HeyMax entry that gains traction will be visible to a competitor with deep Taiwan relationships. The Hong Kong volume's verdict was that HeyMax plays for second behind Cathay at home. The Taiwan corollary is sharper. Here Cathay is the foreign incumbent too, playing away from home, with a locked funnel against HeyMax's open marketplace. Second place in Hong Kong was the ceiling. In Taiwan, against the same opponent on neutral ground, the open model can win. Provided HeyMax signs the partners Cathay forgot to lock, before Cathay remembers to lock them. Chapter 5, Rails Without a Layer. Taiwan is the first market in this series with a true octopus analog. And it is the only one where the Rails' own loyalty venture died on top of them, leaving the layer above the most ubiquitous payment infrastructure in the country genuinely vacant. That combination, world-class Rails, a failed layer, and a zeitgeist that has since shifted to bank-led portability, is this chapter's subject, because it defines both the opening HeyMax would occupy and the cautionary tale it must not repeat. Start with the Rails, because they are magnificent. EasyCard, the contactless stored value card born on Taipei's metro, has issued over 150 million cards cumulatively, roughly 5 per person. It processes more than 8 million transactions a day across transit, convenience stores, and street-level retail, touching over 80% of Taiwan's transport data. EasyCard Corporation itself is a healthy business, with 2025 revenue of 1.97 billion new Taiwan dollars and net profit up 28%. When I wrote the Hong Kong volume, Octopus stood out as the physical spine of daily payments that any loyalty layer had to reckon with, and I noted then that no other candidate market had one. I was right until now. Singapore's EasyLink never achieved Octopus's retail gravity. The Philippines' Beep is a transit token. Australia and the UAE run fragmented state systems. Taiwan alone has the real thing. A single stored value instrument in every pocket, tapped multiple times a day, accepted nearly everywhere small money moves. And on top of these superb rails sits a corpse. UUPON is, or rather was, EasyCard's points venture, co-owned with partners including Chunghwa Telecom, Family Mart, and Fubin. It was the explicit attempt to build an Octopus Reward-style coalition on Taiwan's best infrastructure. In December 2022, it collapsed in slow motion. 7-Eleven and Family Mart, the two anchors that matter most in a convenience store society, quit the coalition within days of each other, and Taishan exited the same week. The program limps on into 2026, technically alive. Points still convert to EasyCard's stored value at 4 to the dollar, and a bridge to EVA still runs at 600 points to 250 miles. But the site is intermittent. Unredeemed 2024 points expired at the start of 2026, and the community treats it as a ghost. The canonical facts file for this volume calls it a zombie, and I cannot improve on the term. What killed it matters more than that it died. UUPON assumed Rails confer loyalty. That because everyone taps the card, everyone would collect the points. They did not. The retail anchors, discovering they were building someone else's asset with their own customers, walked and took the program's reason to exist with them. Rails move money. They do not, by themselves, move hearts. Taiwan has now proven that theorem at 150 million card scale. The second transit player supplies this chapter's live drama. IPASS, Kaohsiung's answer to EasyCard, spent years enjoying a shortcut UUPON never had. Its e-money service lived inside Line Pay, riding the super app's distribution to millions of wallets. On the 31st of December, 2025, that marriage ended. Line Pay, having obtained its own e-payment license, launched its own Line Pay Money, reaching 2.23 million users within weeks. And IPASS Money relaunched as a standalone app, into which some 7 million users had to migrate. The December 2025 league table shows how precarious the aftermath is. IPASS Money at 7.16 million users. JKOPay at 7.14 million, a gap of 15,000. PXmart's own wallet at 7.0 million. And EasyCard's own wallet trailing at 3.59 million. IPASS holds first place by a rounding error, stripped of the distribution that built it, watching Line Pay Money climb. In the Australia volume, I argued that the best partner is the strong number 2 with something to prove. The refinement Taiwan adds is that the best partner is the newly abandoned incumbent, an institution with real assets, wounded distribution, and a board that has just discovered what dependency costs. IPASS in 2026 is the hungriest infrastructure player in Taiwan. Around these specifics sits a broader and stranger pattern. Taiwan's payments are interoperating at speed while its points wall themselves in. Mobile payment penetration hit roughly 90% by late 2025, meeting a national target. The state-led QR standard now unifies 17 banks and around 10 e-payment institutions under one code, and its inbound service began accepting Japan's PayPay and Singapore's Nets at Taiwanese merchants in April 2026. Money, in other words, flows across every boundary the government can reach. Points flow nowhere. The same season saw PXmart drop third-party wallets entirely, and Chapter 3's warring platforms are all building higher walls. The exception, and it is the tell, comes from the banks. On the 5th of May, 2026, Cathay United Bank switched on an interconnect, making its little tree points instantly redeemable across roughly 6,000 Family Mart and PXmart stores. A bank currency, spending like cash inside two rival retail empires at once. Bank-led portability is the zeitgeist. The institutions with clearing system DNA are quietly doing for points what the state did for payments, while the coalitions dig moats. Whoever builds Taiwan's points interoperability, the market is signaling, it will not be the rails and probably not the retailers. Assemble the pieces and Taiwan presents a configuration no earlier volume offered. Hong Kong had strong rails with an incumbent loyalty giant on top. The layer was occupied. The Philippines had weak rails and a thin layer. Everything needed building. Taiwan has the best rails in the series with a proven vacant layer, proven possible by Octopus next door, proven non-automatic by UUPON's corpse, and currently being probed by banks whose interconnects prove the appetite for portability is real and monetizable. The layer, not the rails, is the entire game here, and the only failed attempt at it failed for reasons that indict its structure, not the opportunity. UUPON was rails first, coalition-governed, and anchored on retailers who gain nothing from its success. None of those describe a merchant-funded, airline-pointed conversion layer. So what does this mean for HeyMax? 3 conclusions, in ascending order of importance. First, the vacancy is an invitation with a warning label. HeyMax is constitutionally a layer company. It has never owned rails anywhere, from Singapore onward. And Taiwan is the market that most cleanly rewards that shape, because the rails are built, ubiquitous, and commodity-priced, so all the value sits in the layer nobody occupies. But UUPON's theorem applies with full force. Presence on rails buys nothing without anchors who want you to win. HeyMax's version of 7-Eleven walking out would be launching without committed earn merchants and airline partners. The corpse on the tracks is a diagram of that exact mistake. Second, IPASS is the partnership this chapter nominates. Not as the anchor, that argument belonged to Starlux in Chapter 2, but as the utility layer. Transit-grade ubiquity, a standalone app hunting for reasons to be opened, and an institutional memory that now viscerally understands why tying your future to one gatekeeper, as a line dependency would be, is fatal. EasyCard and the UUPON remnants are a year 2 conversation. The rails will still be there, and the EVA bridge inside UUPON is a curiosity worth studying, not buying. Third, the zeitgeist is blowing in HeyMax's direction. A market whose state pushes payment interoperability, whose banks are wiring point interconnects, and whose consumers just watched walled gardens rise around their groceries, is a market being taught, weekly, by its own institutions, that portability is the future and captivity is the past. HeyMax does not have to preach that sermon in Taiwan. It has to arrive as the first company applying it to the one asset Taiwanese points have never reached: the seat on the plane to Tokyo. Rails without a layer is not a gap in the market. It is the market waiting. Chapter 6: The Field That Proves the Model. The core claim first. Nobody in Taiwan does what HeyMax does, and yet Taiwan's field has already run every mechanical experiment HeyMax's model depends on, at Taiwanese ticket sizes, with Taiwanese banks, on Taiwanese merchants, and published the results. Shopback has proven that affiliate-funded rewards scale on this island. Line shopping has proven that shop-through behavior is not a habit an entrant must teach, but a default the population already runs. And the arithmetic connecting the two has proven that a Taiwanese order throws off enough commission to fund a miles drip a consumer would actually feel. The field, in other words, has de-risked the model without occupying the position. That is a rarer and more valuable finding than an empty market, and this chapter is about weighing it honestly. Start with the incumbent that matters most, because it is the direct proof point. Shopback entered Taiwan in 2016 with 400-odd merchants and now operates as the market's reference cashback platform. Its own tagline calls it, translated, Taiwan's most money-saving cashback site, and its app carries a localized Chinese language brand. Its scale is reported inconsistently across sources. The general manager's interviews say 2 million plus members. Anniversary coverage says 3 million. So I carry it as 2 to 3 million and note the discrepancy rather than picking the flattering end. What is not ambiguous is the flow. In 2025, per the Business Press recap of its year, Shopback Taiwan paid out 840 million new Taiwan dollars in cashback, up 43% year-on-year, across roughly 31 million rebate transactions. Sit with those numbers. A cashback platform in its 9th Taiwanese year is still compounding at 43%. 31 banks now run stacked card promotions on top of it, which means the banking system has metabolized the shop-through platform as standard furniture rather than as a threat. And the division is the number I care most about. 840 million Taiwan dollars over 31 million orders is about 27 Taiwan dollars of cashback per order. Small, granular, constant. The model works here not as a luxury behavior, but as a mass habit at convenience store magnitudes. Now run the arithmetic that turns Shopback's disclosure into HeyMax's feasibility study, with the estimate labels the style rules of this series require. Cashback platforms typically pass half to 70% of gross commission through to the member. 27 Taiwan dollars passed through implies roughly 40 to 55 Taiwan dollars of gross commission per order. That is my derivation from sourced numbers, not a sourced number itself. It reads as a 3 to 5% take on order values in the 800 to 1500 Taiwan dollar range. Convert that commission to HeyMax's currency instead of cash. At the company's Singapore-normed cost per mile, which I estimate at roughly 0.24 to 0.36 Taiwan dollars, a 40 Taiwan dollar commission funds something like 100 to 165 miles per order at full pass-through. The canonical framing is that a typical Taiwanese order funds 100 plus miles. At the community's own valuations of a mile, 0.3 Taiwan dollars for short-haul economy, north of 1.5 for long-haul business, That earn event carries a perceived value of 33 to 80 Taiwan dollars against a 27 Taiwan dollar cash alternative. That is the Singapore value arbitrage, intact, at Taiwanese ticket sizes. Pay out in a currency whose perceived value exceeds its funding cost, and the platform outyields cash without outspending it. Taiwan's average baskets sit between the Philippines and Singapore, and this matters. The Philippine volume found the arithmetic failing at Philippine ticket sizes, where per-order commissions fund a miles drip too thin to feel. Taiwan clears the bar. And in the travel vertical, flights and hotels to Japan at 4 to 7% commissions on baskets of 10,000 to 30,000 Taiwan dollars. The economics turn properly Singaporean. The second proof is bigger than Shopback, and it belongs to the gatekeeper. Line Shopping is the messaging monopolist's own shop-through portal. 12 million users across 1,500 partner brands, a standalone app with 4 million downloads, all embedded in a Line ecosystem of 22 million Taiwanese users who open the app 14 times a day. It pays its rewards in Line points, the coalition currency pegged at 1 point to 1 new Taiwan dollar, with 13.6 million users and 7.3 billion points, a year moving through 660,000 acceptance points. Line Shopping is roughly 6 times Shopback's base, and its official pitch materials note that comparison shoppers spend at multiples of ordinary ones, and that the app will remind you before your points expire. I read Line Shopping 2 ways at once. As evidence, it is emphatic. Click-through and earn is default consumer behavior in Taiwan, operated at super app scale by the most trusted consumer brand on the island. As competition, it is the gravity the later chapters treat with respect. But note the structural ceiling built into its own anchor. A currency pegged at 1 Taiwan dollar per point can never make a premium cabin seat feel reachable. At Line's peg, a business class redemption is just a very large number of small discounts. The gatekeeper has proven the behavior and simultaneously proven it cannot offer the aspiration. That same proven behavior and capped aspiration is precisely HeyMax shaped. Taiwan even has a name for the shelf HeyMax would sit on. The PTT Forum's cardboard categorizes these services as shopping rebate portals, and its canonical list names Shopback alongside older local sites including BigGo. A mental category that already exists is an entry subsidy. HeyMax would not need to explain what kind of thing it is, only what its currency is. The same shelf placement carries the category's trust baggage, which is the next chapter's subject. Here I only note that the slot has a label, and the label is not scam. It is tool. What about the airline's own portals? Is the miles version of the field also occupied, barely and instructively? EVA operates a genuine first-party earn stack. A white-label mileage mall on a domain built from its airline code, an in-house e-commerce venture covered by local media as a Taiwanese first, a duty-free shop where miles offset payment. It is the closest thing to shop-to-earn miles in Taiwan, and it is airline captive, thinly marketed, and invisible in the deal communities. China Airlines runs the opposite shape. Its mall is Burnside only, a place to spend dynasty miles at a rate its own page's price at 1,000 miles against a dismal 120 Taiwan dollars. A redemption that values a mile at 0.12 Taiwan dollars and quietly teaches China Airlines' own members that their miles are near worthless at the mall. And the rumored bank analog evaporates on inspection. A CTBC mileage platform, which I went looking for by name, does not exist. The sweep returns only co-brand card pages and points transfer forms. Taiwanese banks play miles through cards, not portals. Add the field's stable middle. Rakuten Taiwan, which contrary to the retreat hypothesis is alive with 8 million members. Taiwan's mature affiliate networks. Shopee's own 2 to 10% commission program. And the picture completes. A cash-denominated, airline captive field, fully plumbed for affiliate economics, with the earn anywhere into portable miles positions structurally vacant. The fourth chapter established the caveat that must travel with that sentence. Cathay's Asia Miles lifestyle program has already signed many of the coalition partners an entrant would want, so the slot is empty, but the neighborhood is spoken for. I restate it here so the emptiness is not overread. One more contour, because it bears on timing. The field is not static, it is destabilizing. Taiwan's online retail ran 671.6 billion Taiwan dollars in 2025 by the Economics Ministry's count, and its incumbents are bleeding. Momo, the revenue leader at 108.7 billion Taiwan dollars, has entered its first-ever decline era under Coupang's triple-digit growth, near billion-dollar burn assault. Destabilized incumbents renegotiate. Merchants fighting a subsidy war need differentiated demand channels more than comfortable ones, and a platform that delivers travel-intent customers paid in a currency the merchant does not fund alone is exactly such a channel. The field that proves the model is also, at this moment, a field with motivated counterparties. So what does this mean for HeyMax? Taiwan is the rare promised market where the model itself requires no leap of faith. Shopback's 2025 disclosures prove affiliate-funded rewards compound here at 43% a year and 27 Taiwan dollars an order. Line shopping proves the behavior is default at 12 million user scale. The commission math clears the miles bar that the Philippines failed, and the miles version of the position is held by no one. An airline captive mall on one side, a burn-only mall on the other, a non-existent bank platform in between. The field has done HeyMax's proving for free. What the field cannot do for HeyMax is the one thing Taiwan demands before it believes any of this: survive the audit. Taiwan's consumers have already put one shop-through platform under forensic examination and one fintech founder in prison, and the rulebook they wrote in the process is the subject of the next chapter. Chapter 7, The Trust Rulebook. The core claim first. Taiwan's Trust Rulebook is already written, public, and legible from Singapore. One scandal defines what the regulator now fears. One statute defines where the licensing perimeter sits. And one forum thread defines the forensic audit HeyMax will face on arrival. HeyMax's no-custody architecture passes all three tests as built, but passing quietly is not an option here. In a post-scandal market that audits by default, the winning move is to publish the answers before anyone asks the questions, and to publish them in fluent traditional Chinese, which HeyMax has never written a single word of. Begin with the scandal, because it recalibrated the whole market's reflexes. JKOPay is Taiwan's largest e-payment app, over 7 million users as of April 2026, and for the past 6 years, it has been serially at war with its regulator. A 2020 affair over an investment-adjacent custody product, which Taiwan's Financial Supervisory Commission found riddled with deficiencies, brought fines, and the founder's removal from the fund management affiliates board. A breach of trust case followed in 2022. Then the climax. In July 2025, after a court voided the group's 3.6 billion new Taiwan dollar stake purchase in a food conglomerate, the fintech's account was found, in the phrase that ran through every Taiwanese outlet, translated, nearly zeroed out. The court sealed the company's headquarters. Carrefour, Momo, Peachhome, and a queue of chain retailers suspended acceptance within days. The financial regulator imposed daily reporting and rushed out a reassurance whose wording matters. Translated, all e-payment institution funds are protected in trust. And in July 2026, weeks before this volume's research date, JKOPay's founder was sentenced at first instance to 7 years and a 100 million Taiwan dollar fine. Every consumer app in Taiwan that holds anything of value now operates in the shadow of that sentence. And the question Taiwanese users have learned to ask first is the one the regulator's own reassurance taught them. Translated, what protection? A foreign app with no regulator-visible structure does not start at zero on this axis. It starts below it. Now the statute, because the perimeter is more favorable than the mood suggests. Taiwan's Electronic Payment Institutions Act, consolidated in 2021, licenses 3 things: collecting and paying on behalf of real transactions, accepting stored value funds, and small-scale remittance. Its Article 5 exempts pure collection and payment agents below a regulator-set escrow threshold of 2 billion Taiwan dollars. And critically for HeyMax, loyalty points sit outside the act altogether under what I will call the bank bonus points carve-out. Points granted free for shopping or engagement are not stored value funds, and regulatory guidance states it plainly. Translated, loyalty points integration services are not a licensed money flow business under the Electronic Payment Institutions Act, provided the points involve no stored value and no deposit taking. The Act even contemplates licensed players running points programs of their own. Max miles, earned as free consideration funded by affiliate commissions and redeemed into airline programs, sits squarely inside that carve-out. But the carve-out has bright lines, and this series states them as commandments because they are structural rather than stylistic. Never sell max miles for cash in Taiwan because a purchased point is stored value. Never redeem into cash or a transferable balance because a cash-out point is a deposit. Keep the loop closed. Earn from commerce, exit into airlines. I will flag now what the planned chapters return to. HeyMax first, the Fly Now Earn Later product that is becoming the company's core monetization, is the feature in the portfolio that walks closest to that line. And it is exactly the kind of mechanic a post-scandal regulator would examine first. The clean version of Taiwan is the earn and transfer layer. The data protection side, for completeness, is routine rather than frightening. Taiwan's data protection law demands consent-based collection and purpose limitation, gained an independent enforcement commission operating from 2025 and carries fines reaching 15 million Taiwan dollars. A compliance exercise measured in council weeks, not a barrier. The foreign fintech track record draws the same perimeter from the outside. Openness is real. Shopee dominates Taiwanese e-commerce from Singapore. Line owns the island's communications from Tokyo and Seoul. Shopback built its 2 to 3 million member business from Singapore. Foreignness is not disqualifying. But watch what happens the moment a foreign brand touches custody. Line Bank, the most localized foreign consumer brand imaginable, riding roughly 90% national penetration, accumulated 2.27 billion Taiwan dollars in losses within its first year and needed a $7.5 billion recapitalization. Rakuten's bank entered only as a 51-49 joint venture with a local financial holding company. Taobao Taiwan was forced out entirely over investment review issues. Revolut and Wise simply do not operate consumer products here. The pattern is a rulebook in itself. Foreign consumer internet wins in Taiwan when it does not hold regulated value and pays heavily in capital or in control when it does. HeyMax's model, which holds no new Taiwan dollar balances, custodies nothing, and hands value to airlines the customer already trusts, is on the winning side of that line by architecture rather than by concession. Against the scandal backdrop, this is the single strongest structural card Taiwan deals HeyMax, and it deserves to be played loudly. The honest sentence, "We cannot lose your money because we never hold it," is worth more in post-2025 Taiwan than any marketing budget. But the regulator is only the second most demanding auditor in Taiwan. The most demanding one posts on PTT. In July 2019, a user on the credit card board opened a thread on Shopback that I regard as the single best preview of HeyMax's reception anywhere in this volume's research. The questions, translated and near verbatim: how does Shopback know whether you use the designated credit card? Is there an information security risk? Is it legal? What is the authorized scope of the data? That is a compliance questionnaire, written unprompted by a consumer about a cashback site. And then the thread did something more instructive than the questions. It answered itself. Repliers reverse-engineered the affiliate machinery in public: card issuing number codes, tracking cookies, and the reconciliation loop. As one put it, translated, the cashback site takes the order number to the merchant and collects the commission. And one suggested emailing Shopback's Taiwan general manager directly, by name. Note what resolved the concern. Not company public relations, but community members with correct technical answers. The lesson generalizes into the operating instruction of this chapter. The forensic audit of HeyMax will happen. The only question is whether HeyMax has seeded the answers before the thread is opened. That means publishing, in traditional Chinese, at launch, a plain language data flow document. Exactly what the platform sees when a member clicks through, exactly what it never sees, which entity the data sits with and under which law, why no card number is required to earn, that no Taiwan dollar balance exists anywhere in the system, and what happens to a member's miles if the company fails, which is answerable in HeyMax's case, with the genuinely comforting fact that transferred miles already sit in the airline's ledger, beyond the company's fate. Every one of those questions has a good answer. None of the answers exists in Chinese, and a good answer that arrives after the thread has hardened into consensus arrives too late. There is even a positive read on all this severity. Taiwan's audit culture is a moat for whoever passes it. The same board that interrogated Shopback in 2019 now treats it as furniture, with 31 banks stacking promotions on it. Scrutiny here is a one-time toll, not a permanent tax. And the platform that pays it earns a presumption of legitimacy its later competitors must purchase at the same booth. So what does this mean for HeyMax? Taiwan's trust environment looks forbidding and is actually navigable because everything about it is written down. The statute says stay free, stay closed loop, never touch cash, and HeyMax's architecture already complies. The scandal says the market's first question is what protection, and no custody is the one answer that gets stronger, not weaker, under hostile examination. The PTT record says the audit is coming and names its questions, and every question has an answer HeyMax could publish tomorrow, in a language it has never published in. The Rulebook, in short, is passable, and passing it first is worth a moat. Which sharpens the standing question of this volume to a point. If the model is proven and the Rulebook is passable, what has HeyMax actually said and done about the market it promised? The next 3 chapters are the evidentiary record, the promises, the code, and the one artifact that is neither. And they begin with a ledger of every word the company has ever addressed to Taiwan. It is a short ledger. Chapter 8, The Promise Trail. The core claim first. HeyMax's Taiwan promise exists only as boilerplate, and the company's own press cadence cannot decide whether to keep repeating it. I enumerated every channel HeyMax operates, 114 blog posts via the sitemap, all 46 posts of the old Substack, all 132 Help Center articles, downloaded and searched body by body for Taiwan, for Taipei, and for their Chinese renderings. The word Taiwan appears in exactly 8 blog posts, 3 corporate press releases repeating a roadmap sentence, and 5 editorial pieces in which Taiwan is a place other people's planes fly through. 0 Substack mentions. 0 help articles. 0 traditional Chinese anywhere in any HeyMax channel ever. There has never been a Taiwan market announcement, a Taiwan partner post, or a sentence from the company addressed to a Taiwanese audience. This chapter lays the trail out date by date because the dates are where the finding lives. 27th of May, 2025. HeyMax's $6 million annual recurring revenue press release names Taiwan for the first time inside a 5-market list. A global-first strategy that includes planned expansion into Australia, Japan, Korea, Hong Kong, and Taiwan. 2 things about that sentence reward attention. First, its timing fingerprint. EVA Air's Infinity Mileage Lands had quietly joined HeyMax's transfer roster about 7 weeks earlier in the April 2025 partner overhaul. The flag carrier first, the roadmap mention after. A sequence I return to in Chapter 10, because it suggests the list tracked business development reality rather than strategy documents. Second, its casualty. Korea. Korea appears in this list, had no airline rail behind its name, and never appears in any HeyMax communication again. No retraction, no explanation. The market simply stops being mentioned. Korea's ghost matters to this volume because it demonstrates the exit mechanism from HeyMax's roadmap. Markets are not withdrawn, they are silently omitted, and only a reader keeping a ledger would ever notice. Keep that mechanism in mind because it recurs. 28th of January, 2026. The Series A announcement, $11 million, Peak XV and Betatron, converts the vague plan into a dated commitment. Apart from Singapore and Hong Kong, HeyMax will expand its presence into Japan, Taiwan, and Australia by the end of 2026. This is the promise this volume exists to evaluate, so note carefully who stands behind it. Nobody, specifically. Peak XV's Rohit Agarwal talks about the global prize. More than 40% of total card revenues, totaling over $100 billion globally, is spent on loyalty and consumer rewards, and this is HeyMax's opportunity. A sentence about the world, not about any market. Betatron's Matthias Knobloch celebrates Hong Kong, and Zhou Lu's own quote is regional abstraction. Across Asia-Pacific, travel increasingly shapes how people spend and save, yet rewards remain fragmented across markets. No investor and no executive says the word Taiwan in their own voice. The commitment exists only in the press release's narrative connective tissue, which is precisely where, on the evidence of this series, HeyMax's softest commitments live. And the Wire distribution added its own footnote. The newswire copy that Taiwan's own English-language outlet syndicated renders the list as Japan, Taiwan region, and Australia. The China-sensitive phrasing, in the only version of the promise most Taiwanese market readers would ever encounter. HeyMax's blog says Taiwan. The Wire says Taiwan region. The company has never said either to a Taiwanese audience. 31st of March, 2026. 9 weeks after promising Taiwan by year-end, HeyMax inaugurates its Singapore headquarters with a minister in attendance and a press release that describes the company's trajectory as follows. The expansion comes at a time when HeyMax is entering into new markets like Hong Kong and Japan. Taiwan is gone, not deferred, not caveated, simply absent from the company's own framing of its expansion in its most ceremonial communication of the year. The minister's quote matches regional expansion into markets like Hong Kong. Australia, the third member of the promise trio, is missing too. This is the silent drop, and I want to be precise about what it is and is not evidence of. It is not a cancellation. Boilerplate 10 weeks later restores Taiwan without comment, but it is the exact mechanism that deleted Korea, operating on Taiwan in real time. And it establishes that the roadmap sentence is editorially optional. Included when convenient, dropped when the frame tightens to what is actually happening. A market a company is genuinely entering does not fall out of the flagship press release 9 weeks after being promised. Hong Kong never fell out. Japan never fell out. 6th of July, 2026. The HeyMax first launch announcement, a product release about flying hour later with nothing to do with expansion, closes with the boilerplate paragraph. HeyMax has expanded beyond Singapore into Hong Kong, with Japan, Taiwan, and Australia targeted by the end of 2026. This is the most recent recommitment on record, made with under 6 months left on the clock, in the furniture of an unrelated announcement. It is also, as of this volume's research date, the entire extent of Taiwan's 2026 presence in HeyMax's communications. Between the promise of January and the reaffirmation of July sit a headquarters announcement that omitted Taiwan, a Japan trip that produced an award and a conference talk, and, as far as any innumerable channel shows, not one word of Taiwan-directed activity. Zhou Lu, on the record across 2 years of posts, interviews, and conference bios, has never said Taiwan outside a boilerplate list. I searched for the counterexample, and it does not exist. The 5 editorial mentions complete the ledger, and their register is the finding. A Vietnam Airlines guide notes China Airlines business class flies from Taiwan at 150,000 Lotus miles. An airplane guide admires EVA business class out of Taipei. The November 2025 Best Business Class ranking places Starlux 7th and recommends reaching it via Alaska's program. Advice that became a fossil on the 1st of June, 2026, when the Alaska rail died in the Great Partner Cull, leaving HeyMax's only published route to Starlux pointing at nothing. A Fifth Freedom explainer uses Cathay's Hong Kong to Taipei to Tokyo run as its example. A fleet comparison lists Taipei as a narrow-body route. In every editorial appearance, Taiwan is scenery. A departure board, a routing waypoint, a place seen through a Singaporean member's window seat. The blog has never once addressed a Taiwanese person as a prospective user. And here the mirror image, which gives the trail its ironic weight. Taiwan noticed. The Taipei Representative Office in Singapore, the Republic of China's own outpost in HeyMax's home market, ran a business bulletin recording that HeyMax had raised $11 million, opened its headquarters, and planned to enter Taiwan this year. The Invest Taiwan portal carried the same item. Taiwan News syndicated both the Series A and the HeyMax first releases, as wire copy, unedited. That syndication is the complete Taiwanese press footprint of a company that has promised the market twice. Taiwan's government apparatus has logged the promise in its files. The promiser has never spoken to the promised. So what distinguishes boilerplate from commitment? This series has a controlled comparison because HeyMax has done a real entry once. Hong Kong got an acquisition, a named general manager, a flagship partner announced with press, a provision subdomain, help center articles, and local coverage. A paper trail months deep before launch. Japan, Taiwan's co-promisee, has at least the beginnings of one. A pitch contest award, a conference talk, a flag carrier rail announced with a dedicated blog post. Taiwan's trail is 4 sentences. May 2025, January 2026, absent in March, restored in July, plus 5 editorial walk-ons and a government bulletin filed by the other side. On the Australia volume's taxonomy, this is roadmap furniture. A market relisted at each funding cycle because removing it would invite a question nobody wants to answer, carried forward by copy-paste, addressed to investors rather than to anyone in the market itself. So what does this mean for HeyMax? The promised trail, read as evidence, testifies to a company that has committed to Taiwan in exactly one medium, the closing paragraphs of press releases, and in no other medium of any kind. Not hiring, not content, not partnership announcement, not a syllable of Chinese. The trail also testifies that the company's own conviction wavers, because the one time the frame tightened to reality, in the March headquarters announcement, Taiwan fell out of it, by the same silent mechanism that erased Korea. But prose is a forgiving medium. Sentences can be rewritten, lists reshuffled, promises restored by boilerplate. There is one medium in HeyMax's estate that cannot be reworded for an audience because it is compiled for users rather than investors: the production code. What the code says about Taiwan, and about the 2 traps that could fool a careless reader of it, is the next chapter. Chapter 9, What the Code Says, Taiwan Edition. The core claim first. HeyMax's production systems contain 0 Taiwan preparation at every layer I can probe. Sign up, identity assets, currency, payouts, vouchers, language, subdomains, hiring. And more than in any prior volume, the code actively tries to fool you into thinking otherwise. This chapter documents 2 false positive traps that would let a careless analyst, or a motivated one, claim Taiwan is being staged. Handled precisely, the traps dissolve, and what remains is the cleanest negative in this series. Of the 3 markets promised for the end of 2026, Taiwan is the least prepared. Behind even Australia, which at least kept its wiring. The method is the series standard, rerun fresh on the 6th of August, 2026. Download every JavaScript chunk the HeyMax front-end references, 51 chunks, 5.4 megabytes, and read them. Probe the company's cloud storage asset bucket, object by object. query the App Store metadata through the search interface. And exercise the anonymous merchant interface with controlled country parameters. Press releases are written for investors. This is what the company compiled for users. Start at the front door. The sign-up gate is a hard-coded map of 4 phone prefixes: Australia's +61, Singapore's +65, Hong Kong's +852, Indonesia's +62, each with its own tailored error message. The registration schema validates country against an enumeration of exactly 3 values: SG, HK, AU. The phone verification array adds Indonesia. Taiwan's +886 appears nowhere in application logic. A Taiwanese phone number cannot complete sign-up. Full stop. The identity layer agrees. The storage bucket that serves identity verification flag images returns the Singapore, Hong Kong, Australia, and Indonesia flags with success codes, while the Taiwan flag asset returns a not found error, as do Japan's, Korea's, and the Philippines. Read that asset listing as a map of intent, and it says something sharper than absence. The next market being wired is Indonesia, a market absent from every roadmap sentence, while the roadmap promised markets are precisely the unwired ones. The money layer completes the pattern. The purchase payment map knows 1 Australian rail and 3 Singaporean ones. The payout schema, the list through which redemption value actually leaves the platform, permits exactly 2 strings: Pay Now, Singapore's rail, and FPS, Hong Kong's. No Taiwan dollar handling exists anywhere. Even the voucher storefront, the lowest commitment country list in the product, enumerates Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, the Philippines, Vietnam, and Hong Kong. Taiwan is absent from a gift card catalog that found room for Vietnam. Now the traps, because this is where the chapter earns its keep. Trap 1 is inherited from prior volumes but worth restating. The strings +886, TWD, and Taiwan do appear in the bundle. Inside a generic world country library, complete with Taiwan's 2-letter and 3-letter codes, its flag emoji, its Olympic Committee code TPE, and a full international currency table. It is an alphabetical drop-downs dataset, shipped to every visitor on Earth. Zero application logic references any of it. Anyone searching the bundle for TWD and announcing Taiwan support has found a list of every country in the world and mistaken it for a plan. Trap 2 is new this volume, and it is the dangerous one because it produces evidence that looks locally researched. Query HeyMax's anonymous merchant reward interface with the country parameter set to Taiwan, and it returns real Taiwanese records. Momo, P. Chom and its payment arm. Carrefour, Uniqlo with Taipei street addresses. 7-Eleven, a Starbucks with a Kaohsiung address written in Chinese characters. Even acquirer strings naming a Taiwanese payment processor and a fast food chain. All carrying the country code 158, the numeric standard for Taiwan. An analyst who stopped here would write, HeyMax has already loaded Taiwan's top merchants. Entry is being staged. So I ran the control that claim requires the same day. The identical query with country set to the United Arab Emirates, the United States, Korea, Malaysia, Thailand, Indonesia, the Philippines, Vietnam, Australia. Everyone returns equivalent records. What this endpoint exposes is the global card network merchant category lookup dataset behind HeyMax's original card optimizer product. A database of the world's card-accepting merchants in every country, wired for earning in none of the unlaunched ones. And the tell is in the payload itself. Every Taiwanese record carries an empty earning types array. Momo is in HeyMax's database the way it is in Visa's, as an entry in a directory, not a partner. One reconciliation note for readers following the series closely. The UAE volume reported a different endpoint returning empty for the Emirates. The two endpoints behave differently, and neither supports an entry preparation claim for any market. And a third, smaller trap for completeness. The Taiwan subdomain resolves, but so does a gibberish subdomain I invented for the purpose, to the same address, because the domain wildcards everything. The only deliberately provisioned country subdomain in the bundle's own census remains Hong Kong's. Then comes the finding I regard as the decisive one, because it forecloses not just Taiwan, now but the standard story of Taiwan, soon. The App Store metadata lists the application's supported languages as exactly one. English. English only. 3 years in, through a Hong Kong launch and into a Hong Kong operation, HeyMax has never shipped a word of Chinese interface. The comfortable assumption that Taiwan inherits a Chinese build from Hong Kong with vocabulary adjustments is not merely optimistic. It is counterfactual. There is no Chinese build to adapt. Hong Kong's market tolerated English first. Taiwan, where the entire deal hunting, forum auditing, two-decimal culture of the preceding chapters operates in traditional Chinese, would not. Localization for Taiwan starts from character 0, and the entry economics chapter prices what 0 costs. The same metadata sweep yields the demand-side reading. The Taiwanese storefront lists the app, a global distribution artifact, with 0 ratings ever. The same 0 as Australia and the Emirates, against Singapore's 10 and Hong Kong's 20. Nobody in Taiwan has been moved even to rate the thing. The organizational layer matches the technical one. The career system, re-enumerated the same day, shows 7 open roles. 5 in Singapore, 1 in Kuala Lumpur, 1 in Manila. Page-level searches for Taiwan, Taipei, Mandarin, Chinese, 0, and 0 in the historical record. No Taiwan-based or Mandarin-required role has ever appeared. The merchant estate tells the story a fourth way. Among 4,700-odd merchant pages, the complete set of Taiwan-named entries is 3 airlines. China Airlines, EVA, Starlux, all mere card database records with empty earning types, plus a Singaporean hawker chain selling Taiwan the cuisine. The one Taiwanese-founded company that genuinely earns, JKOPay, does so through its Singapore entity, selling to Singaporeans. And Taipei exists on the HeyMax site as a destination page, one of 19 cities in the Flight Deals Index, alongside Tokyo and Seoul. The code's Taiwan, like the blogs, is a place its users fly to. Triangulate the 3 promised markets by what verifiably exists, and the ranking writes itself. Australia has full plumbing, a live prefix, a flag asset, a payment rail, and nothing to redeem into. Both its programs are gone, its community channels dead. Japan has no code, no +81, a missing flag, but a real business development trail. The award, the conference, a flag carrier rail with press, a live restaurateur integration. Taiwan has neither the plumbing nor the trail. It has one thing, which the next chapter takes up. On every other axis, it is the least prepared of the 3 markets promised in the same sentence. Behind a market, HeyMax abandoned 2.5 years ago. The watch list follows directly from the probes. 6 falsifiable markers I commit to in place of a prediction, plus 886 and a flag asset in production. A Chinese language code in the app listing, a Mandarin or Taiwan role in the careers system, a Taiwanese consumer merchant moving from empty earning types to live affiliation. The EVA partnership announced to a Taiwanese audience in Chinese, and a Taiwan dollar payout method joining PayNow and FPS in the redemption schema. As of the 6th of August, 2026, none is moving. So what does this mean for HeyMax? Code is strategy, and Taiwan's code strategy is fully legible. Taiwan is not wired, not staged, and not next. Indonesia is next. The false positives matter beyond hygiene, because they define how this market will be misread. The merchant database will be cited as preparation by anyone who wants the promise to look kept, and the control probes in this chapter are the standing refutation. The 5-month-out reality is that the 2 builds Taiwan uniquely requires, a Chinese product and a Taiwanese payout rail, have no visible start, and the organization has never posted the hire that would start them. And yet the record is not perfectly 0, which is what makes this volume's verdict interesting rather than simple. One artifact sits entirely outside the code, live in production at the partner layer. Real, negotiated, and announced to absolutely no one. It is the strangest object in Taiwan's file, and it is next. Chapter 10, the option nobody announced. The core claim first. Buried in a record that is otherwise a catalog of nothing, no code, no hires, no content, no press, sits exactly one artifact of genuine Taiwan preparation. And it is a substantial one. EVA Air's Infinity Mileage Lands, the frequent flyer program of Taiwan's flag carrier, is a live, direct, one-to-one transfer partner of Max Miles. Signed into the roster HeyMax chose to keep when it was cutting 17 others, and announced to absolutely no one. No blog post, no help article, no press release, no line of Chinese from the company. While JAL, added weeks later, received a dedicated announcement and trade coverage. The financial metaphor writes itself, and I will use it as this chapter's spine. HeyMax has bought an option on Taiwan. It paid a real premium because a negotiation with a Star Alliance flag carrier is not a toggle, and it has paid nothing whatsoever toward exercising it. This chapter examines the option, how it was acquired, why the silence around it is itself evidence, what the page on EVA's own servers tells us, and what the two conspicuous nulls beside it, China Airlines and Starlux, mean for the market map. Start with the acquisition arc, because the rail did not arrive polished. EVA first joined the roster around April 2025, in the Cash for Miles era, as the trade press recorded in its coverage of that month's redemption overhaul. The mechanics then were second class, and remarkably it was HeyMax's own editorial that said so. A December 2025 Redemption Tips post explained that the platform fulfilled EVA transfers by issuing virtual cards to buy the miles. That EVA counts purchased miles as bought points. That bought points can fund at most half of any award. And it recommended, in HeyMax's own voice, topping up through HSBC's direct EVA transfers instead. Sit with that for a moment. The company's blog was advising readers to root around its own rail. Then came the Great Tightening. In May 2026, the same trade source that chronicles every HeyMax roster change reported the end of the Cash for Miles program, the removal of 17 partners, and the arrival of 3 incoming direct partners, EVA Air Infinity Mileage Lands among them. By June, the rail was live. 1-to-1, minimum transfer 1,000 miles, no virtual card laundering, no bot points asterisk. The sequencing is what elevates this from roster trivia to strategic evidence. Australia's 2 airline partners were synthetic constructions that died in that same cull. The Emirates' 2 were cut. Taiwan is the opposite shape. Its flag carrier was added, direct, post-purge, into the kept roster of 20, at precisely the moment HeyMax was shedding everything it considered marginal. A company cutting 17 partners does not simultaneously negotiate a new flag carrier rail by accident. Someone inside HeyMax spent real effort on EVA in the spring of 2026, and the effort survived the most ruthless pruning in the company's history. And then nobody said anything. This is the fact I keep returning to because the contrast is controlled almost to laboratory standards. JAL Mileage Bank went live as a direct partner in early July 2026 and received the full treatment. A dedicated blog post later that month, trade coverage on the day. EVA, a bigger strategic statement, a flag carrier of a market the company has promised twice by name, received a line in the Help Center's partner roster article. That is the entire corporate acknowledgement. Recall the timing fingerprint from Chapter 8. EVA quietly joined the roster around April 2025, and 7 weeks later Taiwan appeared in a HeyMax roadmap for the first time in the same 5-market list as Korea, which had no rail behind its name and was never mentioned again. The inference I drew there bears repeating here, flagged as inference. The roadmap tracks business development reality, rails precede promises, rail-less markets evaporate. On that reading, the EVA signature is not decoration on the Taiwan promise. It is the load-bearing wall. It is the reason Taiwan made the list at all, which makes the silence around it stranger, not less strange. The company announced the promise it has not resourced and buried the asset it actually paid for. The one place the partnership was announced is the most telling artifact in this volume. EVA's own website in its Taiwan locale hosts a promotional how-to page, internally dated May 2026 by its content management name, walking members through transferring max miles, minimum 1,000, into infinity mileage lands via the HeyMax app. It is written in traditional Chinese. As far as my sweeps can establish, it is the only traditional Chinese HeyMax content in existence. And it lives on EVA's servers, written by EVA's web team, addressed to EVA's Taiwanese members who cannot act on it, because the sign-up gate documented last chapter admits no Taiwanese phone number. The page is locale spillover. EVA's content system replicated a campaign built for HeyMax's Singaporean and Hong Kong members across its language variants, exactly as Cathay's Philippine English pages and Philippine Airlines locale pages did in the Philippine volume. But spillover is not worthless. The opposite. It means Taiwan's flag carrier has already built, tested, and published the member-facing instructions for a HeyMax relationship in the market's own language on the market's most trusted aviation domain. If HeyMax ever does exercise its option, the first artifact of the launch already exists, written by the partner, hosted at the partner's expense. That is the beachhead asset, and HeyMax did not even have to ask for it. Now the nulls, because if the roster tracks business development reality, absences are data. China Airlines Dynasty Flyer has never been a HeyMax partner. Not in the August 2024 full enumeration, not in the April 2025 overhaul, not in the May 2026 incoming list, not in today's live roster. On the HeyMax site, Taiwan's second flag carrier exists only as a card network lookup record. A Singapore ticket office entry on Orchard Road with an airline merchant category code and an empty earning types array. A directory listing, not a relationship. Starlux is the same shape with a sharper edge, never a partner, present only as a Changi-addressed sales office record. And the one route HeyMax ever published to Starlux Metal, its November 2025 business class ranking recommending a transfer to Alaska's program to book Starlux, became a fossil on the 1st of June, 2026, when the Alaska rail died in the cull. Since that date, a Max Miles holder has had no transfer path to Starlux at all. Only the cash-priced booking engine. Tiger Air Taiwan, nothing ever. Read together, the nulls say that nobody at HeyMax has had a live conversation with China Airlines or Starlux. And the Starlux null in particular should be read against the fact, established in Chapter 2, that Starlux's program has 0 transfer partners of any kind, and an alliance door slammed in its face in June 2026. The hungriest airline in Taiwan and the platform holding an option on Taiwan have, on all visible evidence, never spoken. That vacancy is the battlefield chapter's business. Here it simply completes the picture of an option acquired narrowly through one counterparty with no second conversation started. What is the option actually worth? Run the counterfactual member. If a Taiwanese flyer could sign up today, and she cannot, the roster she would find is genuinely competitive with anything her banks offer. EVA at 101, into the home flag carrier, whose business class award space HeyMax's own editorial praises. Cathay's Asia Miles at 1-1, the program of choice for the island's dense Taipei to Hong Kong cohort. JAL at 1-1 into the #1 outbound corridor. Xiaomun's program for the cross-strait niche. Qatar's Avios and Flying Blue for the long tail. 3 hotel programs. And the cash-priced booking engine covering Starlux, China Airlines, and Tiger Air for everything the transfer roster misses. No Taiwanese bank offers multi-airline breadth like that. The ground chapters established that miles live in single-carrier co-brand silos there, and that even flexible bank points transfer inside one bank's walls. The paradox of Chapter 9 thus sharpens into this chapter's finding. The product, on the redemption side, is already built for Taiwan. The roster is Taiwan compatible. Only the door is locked. And the EVA rail is proven infrastructure rather than a stunt, because EVA already accepts transfers from Capital One and Citi. HeyMax joined an established queue of international points currencies, which is exactly what makes the partnership credible and repeatable. An option, though, is defined by what it costs to hold and what it takes to exercise, and both cut against complacency. Holding looks cheap, but the counterparty's terms drift. EVA devalued its Star Alliance Partner Awards in September 2025, and every quarter the option sits unexercised, the currency it points at is managed by an airline with its own agenda. Exercise, meanwhile, has a published checklist, the 6 watchlist items from the credibility ledger, from wiring the Taiwanese phone prefix to announcing EVA in Chinese to a Taiwanese audience. And as of this volume's research date, not one is moving. So I close where the evidence compels. The EVA rail is the single fact in this entire record that resists the roadmap furniture reading. The one-line item where HeyMax spent real negotiating capital on Taiwan and won something durable. HeyMax bought an option on Taiwan and has paid nothing else toward exercising it. The obvious question is why the same company in the same months lavished on Japan everything it withheld from Taiwan. A contest stage, a conference talk, a general manager's essay, a rail with press. The two markets were promised in one sentence and prepared in two different universes. That asymmetry is the next chapter. Chapter 11, Japan's Shadow. The Series A press release of the 28th of January, 2026 promised 3 markets in a single sentence: Japan, Taiwan, and Australia by the end of the year. Grammar implies equivalence, behavior reveals ranking. Over the 6 months that followed, one of those 3 markets accumulated a pitch contest award, a conference keynote, a general manager's essay, a flag carrier partnership announced with press, and a live merchant integration. Another kept its plumbing from a previous life and nothing else. And Taiwan, the subject of this volume, got a roster line that nobody announced. This chapter is about the market that got everything. You cannot read Taiwan's file honestly without holding it up against Japan's. And the strangest twist in this whole story is that Japan's assets turn out to be Taiwan's best ones. Start with the event that crystallizes the asymmetry. FINOPITCH is a fintech startup pitch contest staged in Tokyo by FINOLAB, the fintech hub in the Otemachi district, during Japan Fintech Week. On the 26th of February, 2026, 4 weeks after the Series A, with its triple promise still wet, HeyMax stood on that stage as an international finalist and won the Audience Award in the international category. The grand prizes went elsewhere, to Dynamo AI and to a Japanese firm called Dots4. But an Audience Award at a Tokyo contest is exactly what a company entering Japan wants. It is a room full of Japanese financial industry people voting for you. There is even a small omen in the results sheet, the kind of coincidence this series has learned to note without overreading. The Japanside Audience Award went to Hello Clever Japan, the Japanese arm of the Australian payment startup that happens to be HeyMax's sole payment rail in Australia. The networks overlap. The circuit is real. The next day, Joe Liu spoke at the GFTN Forum in Japan. The conference network descended from Singapore's Elevandi in a session on the entrepreneurship track. His speaker biography restated the promise, serving Singapore and Hong Kong, expanding into Japan, Australia, and Taiwan. Taiwan was present in Tokyo the way it is present everywhere in this record. As the third noun in a boilerplate list, spoken in a city that is not Taipei. And Taiwan was present in one other way, which I include for completeness, because it is almost comically illustrative. Among the FINOPITCH finalists was exactly one Taiwanese company, a payment security firm called High Trust, with no connection to HeyMax whatsoever. That is the sum of Taiwan's participation in the most important business development event of HeyMax's year. Meanwhile, the single most Taiwan-relevant disclosure of the entire event sat quietly on HeyMax's own contest profile. David B. Wang's title, rendered there as General Manager of North Asia. Not General Manager of Hong Kong, where he sits, atop the operation built from HeyMax's acquisition of his card deals platform CRIP. North Asia. A remit that on any map includes Japan and includes Taiwan and is held by one person. Now assemble Japan's full trail, because its density is the measurement. A startup research outlet has reported, from search snippets only, so I flagged the sourcing, that relationships built with FINOLAB helped seed HeyMax's Japan connections. In the middle of May 2026, David B. Wang published a LinkedIn essay titled Where the Japan Inbound Opportunity Found HeyMax. That platform is walled to my tooling, so I cannot tell you whether Taiwan appears in the essay, and I note the gap rather than guess. Then, on the 1st of July, 2026, transfers to the JAL Mileage Bank went live. 1-to-1, no fee, a 1,000-mile minimum, and this partnership got the full treatment. Mile Lion coverage on day 1. A dedicated HeyMax blog post before the month was out. The Help Center carries a Japan Merchant Turn article for Take Me, a restaurant integration that lets members earn miles eating in Japan, and the Singapore volume documented Cafe Earn with JR East as well. Award, keynote, essay, flag carrier rail with press, live merchant integration. Now Taiwan's trail in full. Sometime around May or June of 2026, EVA Air's Infinity Mileage Lands program became a direct 1-to-1 transfer partner. Taiwan's flag carrier signed into the tightened post-purge roster, and HeyMax published nothing. No blog post, no help article, no press release. JAL got an announcement, EVA got a roster line. 2 flag carriers, 2 months apart, on the 2 halves of the same promised sentence, and only one was deemed worth telling anyone about. That asymmetry is not an oversight. Sustained over months, publication behavior is resource allocation made visible. Japan is being worked. Taiwan is being kept. Here is the uncomfortable part for anyone who wants to read this as simple neglect. The Japan First ordering is defensible as long as you understand what Japan means in it. Run the comparison the entry economics research forces. Japan's total addressable market dwarfs Taiwan's roughly 6-fold. Card spending of around $900 billion a year against Taiwan's $156 billion. 320 million cards against 60 million, but everything else inverts. Japan's points economy is older and deeper than Taiwan's. The Rakuten Economic Zone, V-Point, D-Point, Ponta, plus an entrenched ecosystem of cashback sites. The slot HeyMax fills is simply more contested there. Japanese localization starts from 0, with no script adjacency to anything HeyMax has ever shipped. Japan's prepaid instrument regulation, under its Payment Services Act, triggers registration and reserve obligations more easily than Taiwan's loyalty carve-out does, a characterization from Japanese practice that Council would need to confirm. And Japanese business development culture is the most expensive in Asia. My reading of the research, labeled as the judgment it is, Japan's entry cost and hostility run an order of magnitude above Taiwan's, against 6 times the market. On cost-adjusted opportunity, for an entry in 2026 or 2027, Taiwan ranks ahead, which yields the resolution of the apparent paradox. Japan is more valuable to HeyMax as a redemption destination than as an earn market. And the JAL rail means HeyMax has already captured that value without entering Japan at all. The FINOPITCH trail may end not in a Tokyo launch, but in exactly what it has already produced. Rails and relationships that let members elsewhere fly to Japan. Members elsewhere. Sit with that phrase, because it is where Taiwan walks back into its own story. No population on Earth is more elsewhere from Japan than Taiwan's. The Tourism Administration counted 18.94 million Taiwanese departures in 2025, an all-time record, and Japan took more than a third of them. Between 6.73 and 6.76 million visits, itself a historic high. Taiwanese travelers spent roughly 1.2 trillion yen in Japan that year, making Taiwan Japan's second-largest tourist market by spend, from an island of 23 million people. The single dominant aspirational redemption in Taiwan is not a round-the-world business-class itinerary. It is a flight to Tokyo or Osaka or Fukuoka, taken again and again. And the asset that serves that exact desire, a 1-to-1, no-fee transfer into the JAL Mileage Bank, is something no Taiwanese bank, no coalition program, and no wallet offers. Taiwan's own conversion plumbing reaches Asia miles and EVA. The mass market's Japan flights are disproportionately flown on Tiger Air, the low-cost carrier, earning its 1% Tiger Points. A transferable currency that turns everyday spending into JAL award seats on the island's #1 corridor is, in Taiwan, a genuinely unowned proposition. The Japan shadow, in other words, casts a corridor. The same business development energy that looks like Taiwan's neglect built the most marketable redemption promise a Taiwan launch could make. The organizational geometry completes the picture. If Taiwan ever runs, it plausibly runs under the North Asia unit. The title already exists. The operation sits in Hong Kong on a shared traditional Chinese script and the relationships that unit holds from Visa to Cathay, Port South. The operation's argument writes itself. Taiwan as an extension of Hong Kong's team and rails rather than a from-scratch market, with the JAL and EVA rails pre-installed. But note what the argument quietly assumes, that the one person holding North Asia has attention left over from the market with the award and the essay and the press cadence. Japan's shadow gives with one hand and takes with the other. It gives Taiwan its wedge, the corridor, the rail, the regional unit. It takes Taiwan's oxygen. Every observable hour of North Asia business development since February has pointed at Tokyo. Whether that trade nets out for Taiwan is, in the end, a question about people and capacity, and I will return to it in the threats chapter under its proper name. What the record establishes here is narrower and firmer. Japan got the trail because Japan was being entered. Taiwan got a roster line because Taiwan was being optioned. The corridor changes what the option is worth. It means Taiwan can launch selling Japan, the one thing every Taiwanese traveler already wants. It does not change who has to exercise it. Chapter 12, How Taiwan Would Receive It. Every volume in this series eventually asks the same question from the other side of the counter. Never mind whether the company can enter. What happens when it does? For Taiwan, I can answer with unusual precision because the reception machinery is unusually well documented. 3 findings structure this chapter. First, awareness of HeyMax in Taiwan is as close to zero as anything I have measured in 6 markets. Second, the market that has never heard of HeyMax nonetheless has a fully rehearsed protocol for interrogating it, and I can quote the questions in advance. Third, foreignness itself is not the barrier, because Taiwan's consumer internet is full of foreign winners. But the price of admission is fluency, and for the first time in HeyMax's history that fluency must be bought in a language it has never shipped a word of. That last cost I can put numbers on, loudly labeled. Begin with the zero, and with the controls that make it a finding rather than a shrug. The PTT Forum's credit card board, the forensic heart of Taiwan's card culture, returns 0 hits for HeyMax ever. The same search for shopback returns threads, so the instrument works. The aviation board, 0. Nothing surfaces on D-Card or Mobile 01 in any engine sweep. Taiwan's 2 serious tech business publications, Business Next and Inside, have never written the name. In the entire traditional Chinese internet, I can find exactly 2 artifacts. One is a May 2026 how-to page on EVA Air's own Taiwan website, walking members through transferring max miles into infinity mileage lands. Hosted by the partner, addressed to people who cannot sign up. The other is a single post on the Taiwanese Miles blog Jazz Talk, covering the April 2025 reform of max miles as regional industry news. Translated, all airline and hotel partners are moving to a cash redemption for miles mode. With the chief executive's assurance, translated, our goal is to maintain the 1-to-1 ratio. The blogger never addressed whether a Taiwanese reader could join, because there was nothing to address. That is the entire footprint. The flip side, which the influencer chapter will price as an asset, 0 awareness means 0 baggage. No failed launch, no burned community, no skeptical thread. Taiwan is the rare market where HeyMax's reputation is still entirely unwritten. But do not mistake a blank slate for a soft audience, because the second finding is that Taiwan audits by reflex, recreationally, in public. The best evidence is 7 years old and aimed at HeyMax's closest analog. In 2019, a PTT user opened a thread interrogating Shopback's data flows, and the questions deserve near-verbatim quotation, translated, because HeyMax will face them word for word. How does Shopback know whether you use the designated credit card? Is there an information security risk? Is it legal? What is the authorized data scope? The board then crowdsourced the answers: cookies, order numbers, commission reconciliation with the merchant, and one replier suggested emailing Shopback's Taiwan general manager directly. Note the 2 lessons. The interrogation is default behavior, not scandal response, and it was community explanation, not company public relations, that settled it. The same culture runs on numbers. Rebate rates are tracked to 2 decimal places from memory. Reward shortfalls get their own post-genre of reward anomaly callouts, and promotional quotas are tracked to the dreaded already full notice. A market this literate will slot HeyMax instantly into its existing mental category of shop-through rebate sites, alongside Shopback and BigGo and the other local rebate sites. And if positioning slips, into the adjacent and faintly disreputable money-making app genre of walk-to-earn schemes and survey mills. Category placement will happen in the first week, with or without HeyMax's participation. Layered over the audit reflex is a fresh trauma, and it changes what the first question will be. The JKOPay saga gave Taiwan a live demonstration of a top-tier fintech nearly imploding. The founder of the island's most-used e-payment app clashed with the financial regulator for years, saw the company's headquarters sealed by a court in July 2025, with its accounts found nearly zeroed, watched merchants from Carrefour to Momo suspend acceptance, and in July 2026 was sentenced at first instance to 7 years and a 100 million Taiwan dollar fine. The regulator's public reassurance that e-payment funds sit in protected trusts is now the reference frame for every app that appears to hold value. So the first question a Taiwanese user asks a Miles platform is not, what is the earn rate? It is, translated, what protection? What happens to my balance if you disappear? Here HeyMax holds, for once, a structurally excellent answer. It pools no funds, holds no Taiwan dollar balances, and its miles transfer out to airlines the user already trusts. EVA, JAL, Cathay. In a post-scandal market, no custody is not a compliance detail. It is the trust pitch itself. But the answer only works if it is volunteered before the question is asked, in fluent traditional Chinese, with the data flow explanation attached. The 2019 thread is the script. The launch should be the preemptive reply. The third finding is the pattern in Taiwan's treatment of foreign platforms, and it cuts in HeyMax's favor, conditionally. Openness is real and demonstrated. Shopee from Singapore dominates Taiwanese e-commerce. Line, from Japan by way of Korea, owns the island's messaging and much of its payments mindshare. Shopback from Singapore built a business of 2 to 3 million members, sources differ, with 31 banks running stacked promotions on top of it. Foreignness by itself disqualifies nobody. But watch what happens the moment a foreign brand touches regulated value custody. Line Bank, backed by the most penetrated consumer brand in Taiwan, accumulated 2.27 billion Taiwan dollars in losses within its first year and needed a $7.5 billion recapitalization. Rakuten's bank entered only as a minority-partnered joint venture with a local financial group. Taobao Taiwan was forced out over investment review issues. Revolut and Wise simply do not operate consumer products here. The pattern is clean. Foreign consumer internet wins in Taiwan when it stays out of custody or enters custody through a licensed local vehicle. HeyMax's earn and transfer model sits squarely in the first, happy category. The same structural placement as Shopback and Shopee, provided max miles stay framed as rewards, never as stored value. The reception, in other words, is not hostile to what HeyMax is. It is hostile to what HeyMax must be careful never to resemble. Then there is the psychology of the pitch itself. Taiwan's mass market thinks in cash-pegged points. Line points at a hard 1 point to $1 peg. Happy GO at 4 points to the dollar. Against that anchor, a mile is an alien object, and the skepticism is already on the record. As one user put it, translated, "It is all points now, and if you do not normally use those points, they are kind of useless." Alongside an outright allergy to complexity, translated, "When I see the dense wall of toggle text, I just close the page." The counterweight is the starved minority. The optimizers who stack e-payment plus credit card triple combos, who reserve miles cards for months they clear 300,000 Taiwan dollars in spend, and whose ceiling case defects entirely, translated. Switch to American cards, everything you swipe smells great. A transparent percentage-back and transferable miles story, with no caps, no toggles, no monthly registration ritual, lands directly on a documented pane. But it will be audited to 2 decimals on day 1. And the education burden, teaching a cash-pegged market that a mile at 30 to 50 cents of a Taiwan dollar in perceived value can out-yield a 2% rebate, is real and continuing. Which brings me to the lift, quantified. The decisive production fact from Chapter 9 bears repeating. HeyMax's app ships in exactly 1 language, English, even after a Hong Kong launch. There is no Chinese build to adapt. Localization starts at character 0. The raw translation is almost trivially cheap. Professional English to traditional Chinese runs 1 to 1.8 Taiwan dollars a word, so an app interface plus help center and terms lands around 5 to 15,000 US dollars. And I label that an estimate. The structural costs are the real bill, all estimates and loudly so. 1 to 3 engineer months of internationalization work if the code base was never built for it. 1 to 2 full-time Chinese content and community people at 60 to 90,000 Taiwan dollars a month each, forever, because deals change daily. 1 to 2 Chinese support staff at 40 to 60,000. Marketing creative in Chinese in perpetuity. Hong Kong adjacency helps less than geography suggests. The script is shared but register and vocabulary differ, and Hong Kong copy cannot ship as is, though a bilingual team can cover both. All in, my estimate for localization plus the first local team year is 250 to 500,000 US dollars. Meaningful, not prohibitive, and non-negotiable. In a market whose entire deal hunting, forum auditing, 2-decimal culture operates in traditional Chinese, an English-first launch would not read as early. It would read as unserious. And this market files unserious under money-making app. Taiwan would receive HeyMax the way it receives everything, openly, forensically, and in its own language. The next chapter prices what a fluent entry costs in full. Chapter 13, Entry Economics. This is the chapter where I put numbers on the Taiwan question. And so, it is the chapter where I owe the reader my usual discipline stated up front. The source numbers below come from Taiwan's regulator, its economics ministry, its tourism authority, and competitors' own disclosures. Everything else is my estimate, and I will say the word estimate every time at the risk of monotony. A strategic analysis that blurs that line is worth less than no analysis at all. With that said, the headline can come first. Taiwan's unit economics sit between Singapore's and the Philippines, materially closer to Singapore. The affiliate math clears, the regulatory path is light, and the entry bill is the smallest credible one in this series. The economics are the strongest part of Taiwan's case. What they cannot buy comes at the end. Start with the addressable market, where the source numbers are enormous and the honest subset is not. Per the financial regulator's December 2025 figures, Taiwan's 32 issuers had 60.49 million credit cards in circulation and 40.55 million active. Roughly 2 active cards per adult. And 2025 card spend hit an all-time record of 4.99 trillion new Taiwan dollars, about 156 billion US dollars, up 6.4%, carrying 57% of all non-cash payment value. Simple division puts spend per active card around 123,000 Taiwan dollars a year. That is arithmetic on source numbers, but treated as derived. Unique cardholders, with 2 to 2.7 active cards per person, plausibly 15 to 18 million individuals, an estimate which is effectively the entire banked adult population. Now the subset that matters, and here I flag low confidence loudly, because no official split of miles versus cashback cards exists. Triangulating from the 3 airline co-brand families, the travel card issuers, and the visible size of the enthusiast community, miles earning cards are plausibly 3 to 8% of active cards. Genuinely miles optimizing individuals, perhaps 150 to 500,000. Miles-aware travelers who hold a frequent flyer account and would respond to a miles product, 1 to 2 million. All estimates. That is the beachhead, not the 40 million card mass market, and any plan priced against the mass market is priced against a mirage. The demand engine behind the beachhead, though, is fully sourced. 18.94 million outbound departures in 2025, a record, up 12.4%. 0.81 trips per capita, which is Singapore and Hong Kong class propensity, with more than a third going to Japan. The aspirational redemption is singular and focused in a way Singapore's never was. Next, the interchange question, because it determines who can fund the rewards. Taiwan has no statutory interchange or merchant discount cap. The hypothesis that a regulator caps card fees dissolves on inspection. The central bank has applied moral suasion historically, but pricing is market set. The norms, from merchant education sources. Small merchants pay upwards of 2%, of which the acquirer keeps only about 0.35%, while roughly 1.5% flows to the issuer as interchange. My estimate for the blended market rate is 1.5 to 2.2%. Here is the strategic consequence. That issuer interchange is already being incinerated in Taiwan's cashback wars, in the headline 3 to 10% capped promotions on the God-tier cards. So there is essentially no interchange headroom left for a third-party card-linked offers platform to share, unlike in the United States. Card-linked economics in Taiwan must be merchant-funded, offer budgets and affiliate commissions. Which is to say, the market's fee structure independently mandates exactly the model HeyMax already runs. The affiliate-first architecture is not a preference here. It is the only door that opens. So does the affiliate math clear at Taiwanese ticket sizes? The Economics Ministry counted 671.6 billion Taiwan dollars of online retail sales in 2025. An understatement of true gross merchandise value, which I estimate at 800 billion to 1 trillion Taiwan dollars once marketplace flows are included. The infrastructure is mature. 2 established local affiliate networks, regional ones on top, and Shopee's own program paying seller set commissions of 2 to 10%. The decisive benchmark is Shopback Taiwan's actuals, reported in the business press this January. 840 million Taiwan dollars paid out across roughly 31 million transactions in 2025, an average of 27 Taiwan dollars per order. Cashback platforms typically pass through 50 to 70% of commission, so the implied gross commission is 40 to 55 Taiwan dollars per order. An estimate derived from sourced numbers. On basket sizes around 800 to 1,500 Taiwan dollars. Translate that into miles. At HeyMax's cost per mile of roughly a quarter to a third of a Taiwan dollar, an estimate extrapolated from Singapore earn norms, a $40 commission funds on the order of 110 to 165 miles per order. At the community's valuation of 30 to 50 cents of a Taiwan dollar per mile, that is 33 to 80 Taiwan dollars of perceived value against a $27 cash alternative. The same value arbitrage that built Singapore, working at Taiwanese ticket sizes. The regional placement, all estimates. Taiwanese average order values of 25 to 45 US dollars sit between the Philippines' 10 to 20, where commissions often cannot fund a satisfying earn event, and Singapore's 60 to 100. Taiwan clears the bar the Philippines missed. And in the travel vertical, 4 to 7% commissions on $10,000 to $30,000 Japan bookings. The economics are genuinely Singaporean. The regulatory line item is light, which in this series is rare enough to dwell on. Chapter 7 laid out the structure. Here is the cost accounting. Loyalty points given free for shopping sit outside the Electronic Payment Institutions Act under the bonus points carve-out, provided they never become stored value. And the bright lines are behavioral, costing zero. Never sell miles for cash in Taiwan. Never allow cash out. Keep redemption closed loop into airlines and travel. The caution flag I must plan again. HeyMax first, the Fly Now Earn Later product that is now core monetization, is precisely the feature most likely to smell like stored value to a post-scandal regulator. That is analysis, and Taiwanese counsel should earn their fee on it. The compliance bill otherwise, all estimates. Data Protection Council, $10,000 to $20,000 for a routine consent and notice build. Entity setup, $10,000 to $25,000 and 2 to 3 months, if and when a local company is needed. And at soft launch it is not, since serving Taiwanese users from the Singapore entity is the standard first move. Deferring the entity cost to the moment Momo-scale direct contracts require a local tax number. Now the spending side, where nothing is sourced and everything is estimate, loudly. Paid media, realistic conversion campaign impression costs for a finance app, 150 to 400 Taiwan dollars per thousand, in a market where agencies complain ad costs have tripled since 2020. Influencers, rate cards run 5,000 to 300,000 Taiwan dollars per placement. My estimate puts a top card influencer campaign package at 1 to 300,000 Taiwan dollars, and finance micro-influencers at 5 to 30,000. Customer acquisition. No published Taiwanese fintech benchmark exists, so estimate accordingly. Paid acquisition plausibly 300 to 800 Taiwan dollars per registration. But a blended cost of 150 to 400 Taiwan dollars per activated user once referral loops do their work, because HeyMax's referral bounties are denominated in miles that cost cents on the perceived dollar. The Singapore trick that travels. Shopback's history is the supporting evidence that organic channels carry weight here. 2 to 3 million members built over 8 years, substantially on deal community word of mouth. And the localization bill from the previous chapter carries over. 5 to 15,000 US dollars of translation inside a $250 to $500,000 first year of localization plus local team. Estimates, everyone. Assemble the bill. A full build, entity and legal at 25 to 50,000 US dollars. Localization and internationalization, engineering at 50 to 100,000. A small local team at 180 to 300,000 a year loaded. Launch marketing at 150 to 300,000. Affiliate integrations at 10 to 20,000. That totals roughly $500,000 to 800,000 US dollars for year one. The lean version. Run from Hong Kong under the North Asia unit, no entity, 2 hires, a localized app, affiliate rails, 1 Japan corridor-led campaign. That lands around 300 to 400,000. Estimates assembled from estimates, and I present them as ranges for exactly that reason. But set the range against the segment. A beachhead of 150 to 500,000 genuine optimizers, inside 1 to 2 million miles-aware travelers, pre-trained by Shopback and line shopping, reachable through an unclaimed influencer map in a market with no licensing gate. If even 100,000 users activated at Shopback-like engagement, Taiwan would be the cheapest credible expansion in HeyMax's portfolio relative to segment quality. That is the economic verdict, and I hold it with more confidence than any single number inside it. What the $500,000 cannot buy is the subject of the 2 chapters that follow. The opening's money merely rents, and the threat's money does not touch. Chapter 14, Opportunities. After 10 chapters of carefully documented absence, no code, no hires, no content, no press, the affirmative case deserves its own chapter. And Taiwan's affirmative case is better than its file suggests. 5 opportunities stand out, and they share 2 properties worth naming before I take them one by one. Each is structural rather than promotional. Not a discount to run or a campaign to buy, but a seat, a corridor, a socket, a hunger, a vacancy. Features of the market's architecture that money alone cannot create. And each is perishable. Every one of them exists because some incumbent stumbled, divorced, got denied, or has not yet noticed. None of those conditions is stable. This is a chapter about doors that are open in August 2026, written in the knowledge that doors like these close. The first and largest is the Starlux seat. Starlux is Taiwan's young premium carrier. Listed on the Taiwan Exchange since 2024, newly profitable on roughly 44 billion new Taiwan dollars of 2025 revenue, scaling an ambitious North American network across Los Angeles, San Francisco, Seattle, Ontario, and Phoenix, with Sydney slated for 2027. And carrying the premium cabins that ambition requires. And its loyalty program, COSMILE, is alone in the world in a way that matters enormously to this analysis. It belongs to no alliance, its One World application having been denied in June 2026. It holds only bilateral partnerships with Alaska, Etihad, and American, and, as the points transfer trackers confirm, it has 0 transfer partners. Not few, 0. No bank points, no coalition currency, no flexible program anywhere on Earth feeds COSMILE. Readers of the Australia volume will recognize the shape immediately. This is the Velocity seat, the open chair beside a hungry airline that a transfer partnership fills to mutual benefit. Except Starlux is hungrier than Virgin ever was, because an unaligned carrier filling premium cabins on new long-haul routes needs every demand channel it can get. The approach vectors already exist. Starlux code shares with Etihad, the very airline this series recommended as HeyMax's UAE anchor. And eSun, Starlux's co-brand issuer, sits high on the partner list. There is even a repair story to tell. Starlux burned community goodwill, hiking its Asia awards from 30 to 35,000 miles right after the eSun card launched, and a new earn channel is precisely how a program buys back affection. COSMILE's first-ever transfer partner is a headline HeyMax can still claim. It is the single most valuable sentence available in this market, and it is available to anyone. The second opportunity is the one that requires nobody's permission, the Japan Corridor Wedge. The pieces assembled in Chapter 11 bear restating as strategy. Taiwan's #1 outbound flow is Japan. 6.76 million trips in 2025, over a third of all departures, 1.2 trillion yen spent. HeyMax's JAL Rail, live since the 1st of July 2026, 101, no fee, is an asset no Taiwanese bank, coalition program, or wallet possesses. The island's conversion plumbing reaches Asia Miles and EVA, never JA. And alongside it sits the EVA rail itself. Live and direct, with a traditional Chinese how-to guide already hosted on EVA's own website. The beachhead artifact, plus a deepening precedent, since EVA already accepts transfers from Capital One and Citi and understands the flexible currency category. What makes this an opportunity rather than merely an asset is that exercising it requires no new negotiation. No Taiwanese partner must sign, no regulator must approve. The only gate is HeyMax's own sign-up wall. Open the gate with a localized app, switch on affiliate campaigns through the mature local networks, and the launch pitch writes itself in one sentence a tiger-rare-weary market already understands. Shop where you already shop, fly JAL to Tokyo. Corridor First is the cheapest credible entry in this series, precisely because the corridor's hard half, the airline rail, is already built. The third opportunity is the Happy Geo socket. Taiwan's largest coalition program, 11 million cardholders under the Far Eastern Retail Group, is, on the evidence of this research, the only Taiwanese points program with a proven appetite for exactly what HeyMax is: an international interconnect. Its bridge to Docomo's D-Point gives its members spending power at more than 40,000 locations in Japan. A genuine cross-border loyalty pipe, operating today, built by the coalition itself. HappyGO has already demonstrated it will plug external value into its ecosystem. Its airline plumbing, by contrast, is a single clunky channel. A serial number request flow into Asia miles at 250 points per 100 miles, with effective economics the community correctly disdains. A HeyMax interconnect would hand 11 million members multi-airline optionality their program cannot build alone, and hand HeyMax distribution through department stores, supermarkets, a telecom, and cinemas. Yes, the encumbrance chapter documented that Cathay signed HappyGO first as an Asia Miles converter. But conversion partnerships in Taiwan are non-exclusive as a matter of observed practice. HappyGO's points already flow to multiple destinations, and the D-Point deal proves the organization thinks beyond Cathay. The socket is HeyMax-shaped. Nobody has yet inserted the plug. The fourth opportunity is hunger, specifically the newly single and the newly frightened. IPASS, the Kaohsiung-based transit card company, divorced Line Pay on the last day of 2025 after years as its regulatory partner, relaunching its e-money standalone in January 2026. An organization that just lost its distribution marriage is an organization taking meetings. Transit is loyalty's best daily frequency anchor, and the island's other transit giant illustrates the vacancy. EasyCard, a true octopus analog with 150 million cards issued and 8 million transactions a day, saddled with UUPON. A points venture so weak that its convenience store partners quit in 2022 and its points expired en masse into 2026. Rails without a layer, as Chapter 5 put it, including a live if obscure UUPON-to-EVA conversion. Beyond transit, the commerce incumbents are frightened in a useful way. Coupang's triple-digit growth, $900 million assault has handed Momo its first-ever revenue declines, and defensive incumbents historically discover partnerships they previously scorned. Even the zeitgeist cooperates. Cathay United's own bank-led interconnect, pushing its points into 6,000 convenience and supermarket stores as of May 2026, is teaching the market that points portability is normal. When the category's biggest bank evangelizes portability, a portability platform stops sounding foreign. The fifth opportunity is the vacancy this volume has already mapped twice. Nobody has claimed the storytellers. Trip Plus, Taiwan's venture-backed answer to MileLion and the market's highest miles authority, has never written the word HeyMax. Neither has the card blogger known as Pokémon, with his 144,000 follower card audience. Nor Shin, LI's 470,000 video subscribers, nor the registration tracker veteran Fuma Memory. Nor, with one exception, anyone else in traditional Chinese. The entire influencer economy runs on bank bounties. HeyMax arrives carrying a merchant-funded lane that competes with none of their existing sponsors. And beneath the influencer vacancy lies the structural one, the finding of Chapter 3. In a $59.9 billion points economy with 8 platforms above 10 million members, not one universal point converts to airline miles as its core promise. Cathay's proto-HeyMax funnels everything into a single program through clunky conversions. Line's peg makes aspiration enumerate. The slot, earn anywhere and transfer to every airline, is empty. The educational groundwork has been done by others at their own expense, and the pitch is an upgrade narrative, not a new behavior narrative. Same idea Taiwan already knows, better currency, every airline. Read the 5 together, and the composite opportunity emerges. A first-mover position in the only rewards category Taiwan has not yet filled, purchasable for the lean entry budget of the last chapter, anchored by an airline seat that would be a regional story in its own right. But return to the property I named at the start. Starlux's seat is open because oneworld said no in June. A carrier that hungry will eventually be fed by someone, a bank, a coalition, or a rival platform. Happy Geo's socket is open because Cathay's conversion is mediocre and Cathay can improve it. IPASS is hungry this year, not forever. The influencer map is unclaimed until Cathay's marketing budget, already active in this market, decides to claim it. Every opportunity in this chapter is a wasting asset, which is the deepest argument against the one strategy HeyMax has actually been running, holding the option and paying nothing toward exercise. Options on wasting assets do not keep. The threats chapter counts the ways this can all go wrong. The honest summary of this one is that the ways it can go right are real, numerous, cheap by this series' standards, and dated. Chapter 15, Threats. Every battlefield chapter in this series pairs an opportunities inventory with its shadow, and Taiwan's shadow inventory has a distinctive shape. The threats here are not regulators or rivals with vetoes, because Chapter 13 established how light the licensing gate is. They are gravities, cultures, and temptations. 5 of them in ascending order of how much of the thesis each can destroy. The first 2 are external and strategic. The third is cultural and subtle. The fourth is self-inflicted and entirely avoidable. And the fifth is internal, structural, and, I will argue, the one that actually decides whether any of this happens. The first threat is the one Chapter 4 named, the encumbrance. Cathay got there first. The empty slot, everyday life converted to airline miles, is empty only at the level of core promise. At the level of signed paper, Cathay's Asia Miles lifestyle operation in Taiwan is a functioning proto-HeyMax that has already contracted the exact partners any universal points player would want. Line points, OPNPOINT, Happy Geo, UUPON, Rakuten's Taiwanese points, and P-Chom's P-Coins all convert into Asia Miles today. 12 banks run the year-end bank bonus points transfer ritual into the same program. Dining earns at 30 Taiwan dollars to the mile with a membership number. A local startup runs Cathay's Merchant Burn Mall. And the pitch is even localized to Taiwanese dreams. 13,000 miles for a Taipei to Tokyo round trip, advertised against the 35,000 of traditional programs. Cathay's system has real weaknesses. One destination program, clunky conversions, minimal marketing. And HeyMax's multi-airline optionality attacks its lock-in directly. But the threat is not the system as it stands. It is what Cathay can do with it when provoked. Exclusivity clauses cost money Cathay has. Conversion flows can be modernized. And the influencer map of the next chapter is claimable by the incumbent's marketing budget at any time. Meanwhile, the bank flank is closing too. Cathay United's Little Tree Points interconnect, live since May 2026 across 6,000 convenience and supermarket stores, with periodic 75% transfer bonuses, shows the group building portability on both sides of the ledger. HeyMax would not be entering an unclaimed category. It would be entering the gap in an incumbent's coverage, and gaps are where incumbents aim next. The second threat is Line's gravity, and it deserves respect precisely because Line will probably never compete with HeyMax deliberately. 22 million Taiwanese use Line, effectively everyone, for an hour a day across 14 daily opens. Its shopping portal binds 12 million users to 1,500 brands. Its points currency reaches 13.6 million people, issues 7.3 billion points a year across 660,000 acceptance points, and enforces the mental model that defines the market. 1 point equals 1 Taiwan dollar. That peg is the deep threat. A cash-pegged points anchor makes every other currency's value legible only through conversion arithmetic, and it makes premium cabin aspiration literally enumerate. Nobody prices a business-class seat in $1 coupons. HeyMax cannot outdistribute a super app and should not partner into dependency on a gatekeeper. The series partner ranking deprioritizes Line for exactly that reason, which leaves coexistence at the flank. The aspirational travel currency line structurally cannot offer without breaking its own peg. Coexistence is viable, but gravity distorts even those who avoid collision. Merchants budget for line first. Influencer campaigns anchor on line reach. A new app's daily open habit must be carved out of line's hour. And line keeps shipping. Its payment arm spun out a standalone e-money product within weeks of the IPASS divorce and put 2.2 million users on it almost immediately. A competitor that ambient does not need to aim at you to crush you. It only needs to keep expanding. The third threat is cultural, the toggle fatigue backlash aimed at the wrong target. Taiwan's card market has spent years teaching its consumers to distrust complexity. The God card's category switches, monthly registration rituals, caps, channel conditions. And the fatigue is documented in the market's own words, translated. When I see the dense wall of toggle text, I just close the page. And of points specifically. If you do not normally use those points, they are kind of useless. HeyMax's honest pitch is that it abolishes the friction. No registration, no toggles, no caps, but its underlying model is objectively more complex than Cashback. Earn, transfer, search award space, book. 4 steps where ShopBack has won, denominated in a currency with no Taiwan dollar peg. The risk is mispositioning, filed by a fatigued mass market as one more convoluted point scheme, or worse, slotted into the faintly scammy money-making app genre. And the market's response to any weak spot will not be private. This is the culture of 2-decimal rebate rate audits and reward anomaly call-out threads, where every underwhelming merchant rate becomes a public exhibit. The mitigation is real but demands discipline. Publish Taiwan dollars per mile tables before being asked. Anchor everything on the one redemption the market already covets, a Japan flight. And discipline under launch pressure is exactly what the next threat erodes. The fourth threat is the promise theater trap. And unlike the others, HeyMax can only inflict this one on itself. The mechanics were established in the record chapters. The end of 2026 promise was reaffirmed in boilerplate on the 6th of July, 2026, under 6 months from its deadline, while every real prerequisite, Chinese build, payout rail, local hire, shows no visible start. An Australia-style toggle launch is mechanically achievable inside the window. Add the Taiwanese phone prefix to the sign-up gate. Flip on Taiwanese affiliate campaigns through the networks HeyMax already uses. Publish a blog post. Declare the promise kept. The Australian volume documented what that buys. A 10-week push, 0 ratings, abandonment. And Taiwan would punish it harder because Taiwan's reception machinery is stronger. A shell launch would meet the 2019 vintage forensic audit with no traditional Chinese answers prepared, hand PTT a target instead of a story, and spend the one strategic asset Taiwan uniquely offers: 0 baggage. This market gives a foreign entrant exactly one first impression, and the theater version wastes it on a deadline no user cares about. I will add the regulatory variant of the same self-inflicted wound. Shipping HeyMax first mechanics, the tiered fly now earn later product that now drives monetization, into Taiwan without counsel would wave stored value colors in front of a regulator that just watched a court-sealed JKOPay's headquarters and sentence its founder to 7 years. The no-custody advantage of Chapter 7 is an asset only while it remains true, loudly and verifiably. The tells for theater are on the record in advance. No Chinese app in the listing's language codes. No Taiwan dollar payout rail in the redemption schema. No local or Mandarin hire in the career system. If a Taiwan launch arrives without those 3, this volume's reading is that nothing launched at all. The fifth threat is the quiet one that governs the other 4. Capacity. Japan eats the same team. HeyMax is roughly 30 people. Its careers page, rechecked this month, shows 7 open roles. 5 in Singapore, 1 in Kuala Lumpur, 1 in Manila, and it has never once advertised for Taiwan or for Mandarin. The entire North Asia remit, Hong Kong operating, Japan entering, Taiwan promised, is held by one general manager in Hong Kong. Now weigh the internal contest. Japan has the award, the conference circuit, the incubator relationships, the flag carrier rail with press, the live merchant integration, and a headline market 6 times Taiwan's size. Taiwan has a roster line, and this volume's arguments. Every hour of that one team's business development spent in Tokyo is an hour not spent in Taipei. And the record of the past 6 months shows where the hours went. Worse, the corridor logic that makes Taiwan cheap also makes it postponable. The JAL and EVA rails already monetize Singaporean and Hong Kong members flying north. Japan's destination pays HeyMax today without any Taiwan entry. A rational, stretched organization defaults to that harvest. And while it harvests, Chapter 14's clocks run, the Starlux seat gets filled. Happy Geo's socket goes to someone else. Cathay claims the influencers. The EVA option decays. That is the composite threat, and it needs no competitor to execute it. Taiwan does not fail here because Cathay wins, or Line crushes, or PTT revolts. It fails because a 30-person company with a Tokyo trail lets the promised market remain what it has been since May 2025. The third noun in someone else's sentence. Chapter 16, The Influencer Map Taiwan Edition. Every market in this series has taught me to read the influencer economy before the partner list, because the influencers tell you 2 things no pitch deck ever will: who currently pays for consumer attention, and what shape the interrogation will take when a new rewards product shows up. In Singapore, the answer was a mature Miles commentariat with Mile Lion at its center. In Australia, it was a deals culture that had already watched one HeyMax launch arrive and quietly die. Taiwan's answer is distinctive on both counts. The people who move card and points opinion here are funded almost entirely by banks. Referral bounties, group application commissions, comparison placements. And the community they answer to conducts forensic audits as a form of recreation. Both facts are load-bearing for HeyMax. The first means HeyMax arrives carrying a genuinely novel revenue lane for every creator in the market. The second means the launch will be cross-examined in public to 2 decimal places within days. Start at the top of the authority pyramid. TripPlus is the closest thing Taiwan has to a Mile Lion, and it is structurally more ambitious than a hobby blog. A venture-track content and tools company, accepted into 500 startups back in 2017 with an editor-in-chief, a stable of writers, an award search calculator, a podcast, and a consulting arm. It even sells EVA miles officially, an arrangement that makes it simultaneously commentator and merchant inside the miles economy. The crucial nuance is where its money comes from. TripPlus's affiliate economics ride on American credit card bounties, serving the North American Chinese audience it gathers in its miles discussion group. The Taiwan-facing EVA and China Airlines redemption guides build the readership that the U.S. card links monetize. That is the top-end defection I documented in the opening chapter, institutionalized. The PTT lament, translated, switched to American cards, everything you swipe smells great, converted into a business model. And here is the strategic fact that matters most. As of August 2026, TripPlus has never covered HeyMax. Not a review, not a news brief, nothing. The highest authority Miles' voice in the market is unclaimed, and a first-mover relationship, coverage, and earn integration, co-built award tooling is sitting open for whoever asks first. One tier down sits the card blogger known as Pokémon, the card collector mass influencer. 545 plus credit cards, a following around 144,000, a podcast, a mainstream media profile. His monetization is the Taiwan template in miniature. Organized group card applications, member-get-member bank bounties, per-card affiliate deals. Banks pay him because he moves applications in bulk, and his audience is precisely the card maximizer middle of the market. People who already juggle reward categories and would understand a transferable mile faster than most. Then there is Shin Li, roughly 470,000 video subscribers of mass-market light personal finance content, 10-minute card comparisons, and digital account rankings aimed at young earners. This is the channel tier that mainstreams a new rewards app in Taiwan. Nothing reaches the first jobber demographic faster. And there is Fuma Memory, the veteran whose signature franchise is the monthly consolidated tracker of registration deadlines. Most Taiwanese card promotions require manual sign-up every cycle, and missing the window forfeits the reward. Sit with that for a moment. This is a market where registration deadline journalism is a beloved genre. A market that needs a blog to track its own friction is a market diagnosing itself. HeyMax's no registration, no toggle earn model is, implicitly, an attack on the entire genre, which makes the genre's most trusted author the perfect witness. Below the named tier runs a long tail of explainer sites, points guides, and card databases. And within it, exactly one Taiwanese blog that has ever written about HeyMax. JazzTalk, which covered the April 2025 Max Miles reforms, translated, "All airline and hotel partners are moving to a cash redemption for miles mode," and quoted the chief executive's assurance, translated, "Our goal is to maintain the 1-to-1 ratio." The piece treated HeyMax as regional industry news, not a product a Taiwanese reader could use, because it was not one. That single article, plus the transfer guide on EVA's own website, is the entire organic footprint. Everything else is silence. Above the creators or beneath them, depending on how you draw the diagram, sit the boards, and they are where Taiwan's opinion actually forms. The PTT Forum's credit card board runs about 70 concurrent users on a good evening, which sounds like nothing until you notice that blogs and video creators cite PTT and never the reverse. Its post-genres are a culture in themselves. Intel on new promotions. Experience reports on card approvals, reward anomaly callouts when a bank underpays by a rounding error, and quota tracking that ends in the dreaded already full notice. The mass market lives one board over. Life is Money, the savings board, runs 6 to 7 times the concurrency and is where deals go viral. Dcard's credit card board mirrors PTT for students and first jobbers, and social groups and line communities carry everything outward to everyone's aunt. The cascade is reliable. When the 70 people on PTT and the 470,000 on Shin, LI's channel eventually hear about it, with the credibility already attached. Now the economics, because they explain the opening. Every actor I have named is funded by banks. Agency rate cards put influencer placements anywhere from 5,000 to 300,000 new Taiwan dollars, with top card influencer campaign packages plausibly in the 1 to 300,000 range. My estimate flagged as such. But the structural point is that the bounty always originates with an issuer acquiring cardholders. HeyMax's offer is categorically different. Merchant-funded referral economics with a transparent per-mile value, a lane that exists alongside bank money rather than competing for it. No creator in Taiwan has to drop a bank sponsor to take a HeyMax integration. For Trip Plus specifically, a HeyMax partnership would be its first domestic product monetization lane that is not a US card link. A diversification argument, I suspect, lands well with a team that watched American issuers tighten affiliate terms for years. And an invite code program would slot into existing behavior without translation. Shopback seeded Taiwan exactly this way, and the community already trades referral codes as social currency. Which brings me to the audit, because in Taiwan the audit is not a risk, it is a scheduled event. In 2019, a PTT user opened a thread that forensically interrogated Shopback's data flows, and its questions are worth quoting, translated, because HeyMax will face them near verbatim. How do you know whether I use the designated credit card? Is that even legal? What is the authorized data scope? The thread then crowdsourced the answers. Cookies, order numbers, commission reconciliation, and one replier suggested emailing Shopback's Taiwan general manager directly. Note what resolved the concern, not company public relations, community explanation. The engagement design for Taiwan writes itself from this precedent. publish the data flow answers before anyone asks, how affiliate tracking works, exactly what is collected and what is not, the privacy notice in traditional Chinese, what happens to a user's miles if HeyMax vanishes tomorrow. Publish per merchant earn tables denominated in new Taiwan dollars per mile, because this market audits rebate rates to 2 decimal places and will reverse engineer the numbers anyway. Volunteering them converts a stress test into a trust signal. Seed the technically fluent first, PTT's reviewers, Trip Plus's writers, and let the cascade do the rest in the sequence the market's own structure dictates. PTT and Trip Plus for credibility, Pokémon for the card maximizer mass, Shin Li for the mainstream, and Fuma Memories Tracker as the venue where no registration required gets noticed as the anomaly it is. The conclusion I keep circling back to is that Taiwan's influencer map is the cheapest strategic asset in this entire volume. Zero awareness means zero baggage, no failed launch to live down, no burned community, no skeptical thread to overcome. The Australian problem in reverse. Every name on this map is unclaimed, and the claiming cost is measured in tens of thousands of US dollars, not millions. But unclaimed is not the same as permanently available. Cathay's Asia Miles lifestyle machine already spends marketing money in this market, and the coalition partners it has signed give it every reason to eventually spend on these same voices. The map is open today. Maps like this do not stay open. Chapter 17, The Partners and the Rank 10. 5 volumes in, I have a lens I trust. Every viable entry architecture in this series has been anchored by exactly one partner archetype, and the market analysis is really the search for it. In Hong Kong, it was institutional issuance riding Octopus and Visa rails. In the Philippines, it was a conglomerate stack that never quite offered itself, which is much of why that verdict was not now. In Australia, it was Velocity, the hungry number 2 airline program whose need for demand aggregation exceeded its incumbency pride. In the UAE, it was Etihad Guest's open exchange. So the question this chapter exists to answer is the same one I have asked 4 times before. Who anchors Taiwan? The answer, I am confident, is Starlux, and the reasoning is almost embarrassingly clean. COSMILE, Starlux's loyalty program, belongs to no alliance, and not entirely by choice, because its One World application was denied in June 2026. It is a listed company, ticker 2646 on the Taiwan Exchange, newly profitable on roughly 44 billion new Taiwan dollars of 2025 revenue. And it is scaling a North American network, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Seattle, Ontario, Phoenix, with Sydney announced for 2027, that fills widebodies with premium cabins it must sell. And here is the fact that turns a candidate into an anchor. The partner directory confirms that COSMILE has 0 transfer partners today. Not few, 0. No bank currency, no coalition point, nothing converts into COSMILE from anywhere. A challenger airline burning capital on long-haul expansion, with premium seats to fill and no transfer in rails at all, is structurally the Velocity analog. The seat this series taught me to look for, sitting open in Taipei. The approach path is unusually warm. Starlux signed a codeshare with Etihad in June 2025, and Etihad is precisely the partner my UAE volume recommended HeyMax anchor on. A mutual friend, in effect. eSun, Taiwan's partnership native issuer, comes attached as COSMILE's co-brand bank. I will note the bruise honestly. Starlux hiked its Asia award chart from 30 to 35,000 miles right after the eSun card launched, and the community noticed. But a program that needs to rebuild goodwill is a program with a reason to sign something generous. And a first-ever transfer partnership is exactly that kind of story. The second archetype Taiwan offers is one no prior market had. A coalition with a proven appetite for international interconnects. Happy Geo, 11 million cardholders across the Far Eastern retail group, points worth a quarter of a new Taiwan dollar at the 4 points offset $1 baseline. It already runs a cross-border partnership with Docomo's D-Point, making its points usable at more than 40,000 Japanese locations. It also already bridges into Asia Miles, clunkily and at poor value, which proves two things at once. It will sign external rails, and it signs them non-exclusively. A coalition that executed the Docomo playbook is, as I put it in the Opportunities chapter, the exact HeyMax-shaped socket. With the anchor logic established, here is the ranked 10. Ordered, as in my research, by the product of win probability and value. Number 1. Starlux COSMILE. The anchor. 0 transfer partners, 1 world denied, listed, and newly profitable, premium cabins scaling into North America, a warm introduction through the Etihad codeshare, and eSun attached as issuer. Being any program's first-ever transfer partner is a once-per-market event. This one is available. Number 2. Happy Geo. The Interconnect. The only Taiwanese coalition with a demonstrated international rail via Docomo's D-Point. 11 million members and Far Eastern's department store distribution come with it. Number 3. JKOPay. The Corridor Merchant. Taiwan founded, funded by Cool Japan money in late 2024, then squeezed through 2 2025 layoff rounds. Precisely the growth plus pressure profile that signs revenue-bearing partnerships with perfect Taiwan to Japan experiences inventory. It already earns on HeyMax through its Singapore entity. The ask is an upgrade, not an introduction. Number 4. Taishan Richart. The bank. Taiwan's #1 digital bank at 4.48 million accounts, a young saver demographic that is exactly HeyMax's, and a customizable rewards platform already built to plug things into. Number 5. IPASS. The utility. Divorced from Line Pay on the last day of 2025 and running standalone since January, it needs a differentiation story for the first time in a decade. Kaohsiung government lineage supplies legitimacy. Transit supplies daily frequency. Number 6. eSun Bank. The issuing ally. Holder of the Starlux and Pi co-brands, the most partnership-native bank in the market. It arrives more or less automatically with anchor number 1. Number 7. EVA Infinity Mileage Lands. The deepening. The rail is already live at 1-to-1, and EVA has precedent for third-party transfers since Capital One and CD already flow in. The move is from quiet roster line to marketed partnership once corridor volume exists to show. Number 8. Momo and Taiwan Mobile. The defensive giant. Kupang's assault handed Momo its first-ever revenue declines in 2025, and defensive platforms accept external loyalty utility that confident ones refuse. The Momo coins culture proves the group thinks in currencies. Number 9. Easy Card and UUPON. The rails without a layer. 150 million cards issued and 8 million transactions a day make EasyCard a true octopus analog, while its UUPON points venture is a zombie. Which means the plumbing exists, the loyalty layer above it is vacant, and the partnership is cheap. Number 10. OPENPOINT and UniOpen. The ceiling. 19 million members across 7-Eleven, Carrefour, and Starbucks Taiwan. The highest volume daily spend stack in the market. And closed, self-sufficient, uninterested until leverage exists. A year-2 pursuit, deliberately. The deprioritizations matter as much as the rankings, because 3 of them would be the intuitive picks. Line is the market's gravity well. 22 million users, Line points anchored at 1 point equals $1. And exactly for that reason, it is a gatekeeper, not a partner. Its economics depend on value staying inside its walls, and since the IPASS divorce, it has been building those walls higher with its own e-money service. Use it as a marketing channel. Never build the core loop inside it. Cathay United Bank is disqualified for the opposite reason. It is not indifferent to interconnection. It is executing it. As of May 2026, wiring its little tree points into instant redemption across some 6,000 Family Mart and PX Mart stores. It is the competing architect, to be watched rather than courted. China Airlines, the flag carrier a naive analysis would rank first, has shrinking third-party rails. American Express dropped Dynasty as a transfer partner in 2024, and it runs a Burnside-only mall that values 1,000 miles at 120 new Taiwan dollars. Shopee and Coupang are gatekeeper and disruptor respectively, with no partnership need. CTBC, the incumbent card kingmaker with the ANA and China Airlines co-brands, is too comfortable to be hungry. But it is the single best future customer for HeyMax's business-to-business layer, and I would revisit it in that costume. The rest, HamiPoint, P-Chom, Nextbank at 500,000 accounts, Rakuten Bank Taiwan at fewer than 300,000, are subscale, captive, or slow. One overlay explains why the list bends the way it does: the encumbrance. Cathay's Asia Miles lifestyle program, the proto-HeyMax of the fourth chapter, has already signed line points, OPNPOINT, Happy Geo, UUPON, Rakuten's points, and P-Chom's P-coins as converters, with 12 banks transferring bank bonus points on top. The obvious partners are spoken for, in the specific sense that they already feed a competitor's single currency funnel. The ranked 10 routes around that encumbrance deliberately. It anchors on the one airline Cathay's machine cannot encumber, because Starlux converts from nothing and belongs to no one. It contests Happy Geo precisely because Happy Geo's history, DeComo signed while the Asia Miles bridge ran, proves its rails are non-exclusive. And it defers the most encumbered giant, OPNPOINT, to a Year 2 campaign waged from strength. That is also the shape of the escalation path. Year 1 is the anchor and the socket. Starlux signed as a first-ever transfer partner, Happy Geo interconnected on the DeComo pattern, JKOPay upgraded, IPASS added for daily utility. Year 2 spends the proof. The EVA rail deepened and finally announced to the audience it was quietly built for. Richard pitched a miles-on banking layer its own group cannot build. OPNPOINT approached with volume numbers instead of a vision deck, and CTBC offered the infrastructure version of the product. The list, read in order, is an argument I will make explicitly in the final chapter. In Taiwan, the anchor precedes the market. Sign the seat that is empty, and the rest of the map reorganizes around it. Chapter 18, The Corridor First Architecture, Taiwan Edition. By the sixth volume, Corridor First has hardened from an improvisation into a doctrine. The Philippines volume taught the beachhead plus diaspora shape. The UAE volume taught partnership before entry. Buy the option, defer the market. Taiwan gets the purest version of the doctrine yet, for a simple reason the demand data makes unarguable. In Taiwan, the corridor practically is the market. So this chapter is the build plan. The wedge, the phases, the operating argument, and the gates that keep it honest. Begin with the demand, because everything else hangs from it. Taiwan logged a record 18.94 million outbound trips in 2025, up 12.4% from a population of 23 million. Around 0.8 trips per person per year, which is Singapore and Hong Kong class propensity. More than a third of those trips, 6.73 to 6.76 million by the tourism authorities' counts on both ends, went to one country, Japan, a historic high that made Taiwan Japan's number 2 tourist market by spend at roughly 1.2 trillion yen. There is no diffuse long-haul map to educate here, no portfolio of aspirations to segment. The single dominant redemption dream of the Taiwanese traveler is a Japan flight. A market this focused is a gift to anyone building a redemption story. You only have to tell one. Now the wedge, which is the part of this architecture that requires nobody's permission. HeyMax's JAL mileage bank rail went live on the 1st of July, 2026. 1-to-1, no fee, 1,000-mile minimum, and I verified the negative that gives it its force. No Taiwanese bank, coalition, or wallet offers a JAL rail, not the God card issuers, not Happy Geo, not OPNPOINT, not HSBC's 16-program Traveler's Card. The one thing every Taiwanese consumer wants, nobody in Taiwan sells, and HeyMax already owns it, alongside the quiet EVA rail and Asia Miles for the Cathay flying cohort. a redemption menu no local player can assemble. The earn side needs no permission either. Taiwan's affiliate infrastructure is mature, with 2 established local networks and regional ones on top. And the unit math clears, as the economics chapter showed. Roughly 40 to 55 new Taiwan dollars of gross commission per order funds 100+ miles at HeyMax's cost, reading as 3 to 7% back in perceived miles value against a 2 to 3% cash alternative. With the travel vertical, $10,000 to $30,000 Japan bookings at 4 to 7% commission, performing at genuinely Singaporean economics. The wedge, stated as a sentence a PTT reader would immediately test. Shop where you already shop, earn a currency that becomes a JAL or EVA seat to Tokyo. Permission-free does not mean build-free, and I want to be exact about the floor, because the production evidence says it has not been poured. The app is English only. The store listing declares a single language code, even after the Hong Kong launch, so there is no Chinese build to adapt. Taiwan would be HeyMax's first non-English market, built from zero. The sign-up gate holds 4 phone prefixes, none of them Taiwan's. There is no Taiwan dollar logic. And the payout schema knows exactly 2 rails, PayNow and FPS, Singapore and Hong Kong, with no Taiwanese equivalent a foreign non-bank can simply join. The minimum honest ship is therefore 3 things: traditional Chinese localization and the internationalization engineering beneath it, call it 50 to 100,000 US dollars and 1 to 3 engineer months. The gate, the flag asset, Taiwan dollar display. And a payout answer, whether a local banking partner or a card credit workaround. All in, the lean version, run from Hong Kong, 2 local hires, no entity yet, is a 3 to 400,000 US dollar year, against a full build of 5 to 800,000. Those are estimates, labeled as ever, but they bound the bet. This is option money, not company bet money. The architecture then unfolds in phases, each named for the chapter that justified it. Phase 0 is the corridor launch itself. The traditional Chinese app. Earn through the affiliate networks plus JKOPay and Klook. Redemption marketed almost entirely as the Japan story, JAL and EVA, with the preemptive data flow documentation of the influencer chapter published on day 1 and the trust framing of the Rulebook chapter everywhere. No custody, no cash, miles transfer out to airlines you already trust. Phase 1 is the anchor. Starlux, signed as COSMILE's first-ever transfer partner, approached through the Etihad warmth, with eSun attached. The announcement that converts a shopping app into news, because first-ever is a headline in any language. Phase 2 is the interconnect. The Happy Geo 2-way rail on the JKOPay pattern, which delivers mainstream legitimacy and 11 million members worth of distribution, plus IPASS for daily life utility. Phase 3 is the Year 2 escalation of the partners chapter, the EVA deepening finally announced in Chinese, Richard's Miles on Banking, the OPENPOINT campaign waged with volume numbers, CTBC as a business-to-business client. The operating argument for who runs this is, to my mind, the strongest organizational fact in the whole record. HeyMax has a general manager of North Asia, a title disclosed on the company's own pitch competition profile, running a Hong Kong operation built from the Crip acquisition, with partnership relationships spanning Visa, Octopus, and Cathay. Taiwan is Mandarin adjacent and traditional Chinese script identical to Hong Kong. The Cathay and Asia Miles brand equity that team knows best is genuinely present in Taiwan's card market. The Visa relationship is portable. Run Taiwan as an extension of the North Asia unit. Shared leadership, shared rails, a bilingual content team covering both scripts registers, and the marginal cost collapses relative to a from-scratch country build. I flag the honest caveat from the threats chapter. Japan eats the same team, and North Asia is one person's remit. The corridor design is deliberately sized so that a unit fighting Japan's war can still hold Taiwan's beachhead. But capacity, not money, is the binding constraint, and I will not pretend otherwise. Finally, the gates. Because the difference between this architecture and the promised theater I warned about is that this one can fail visibly and cheaply. These are my numbers, not HeyMax's, and I label them as analyst designed. Gate 0 is the ship gate. The falsifier list from the record chapters actually flips. The Taiwanese phone prefix in production. A traditional Chinese language code in the app listing. A Taiwan dollar payout answer. Until those exist, nothing has launched, whatever any press release says. Gate 1 sits at month 6. 30 to 50,000 activated users. Blended acquisition, cost inside the $150 to $400 band the economics chapter estimated. And, the metric I would watch above all, real transfer volume moving to JAL and EVA. Because transfers are the proof that users believe the currency. Miss Gate 1 in Taiwan reverts to what it already is. A destination marketing experiment serving Singapore and Hong Kong members. No harm done. Gate 2 sits at month 9, the Starlux signature. The corridor can launch without the anchor, but it cannot escalate without it. If COSMILE's first ever seat goes unfilled or goes to someone else, the architecture stays corridor only. A profitable niche, not a market entry. Gate 3 at month 12 to 18 is the Happy Geo memorandum. The interconnect is what justifies releasing the full build budget, the entity, the bigger team, the OPENPOINT campaign. Each gate spends nothing until the previous one clears, which is the entire point. Step back and the shape is familiar. This is the UAE recommendation, partnership before entry, option before exercise, with one enormous difference. In Taiwan, HeyMax already holds a live rail it never announced, and a second rail, JAL, pointed at the exact corridor Taiwanese demand travels. The corridor-first architecture is simply the act of exercising an option the company already paid for. In stages, at option money prices, with predefined points at which to stop. What it is not is a toggle launch wearing a strategy's clothes. And the tell, as always in this series, is not the launch post but the gates. Theater has no gates. Architecture is mostly gates. Chapter 19, What Not to Do. Every volume in this series has carried a chapter like this one, and by now I think of it as the negative space drawing. The entry strategy defined by the mistakes available around it. Taiwan is unusual in that all of the series' expensive mistakes are available here simultaneously, and several of them are actively tempting in the same quarter. The last quarter of 2026, when a twice-made promise comes due. So this chapter is 5 prohibitions, each anchored to evidence already on the table, each phrased the way I would want it phrased if I were in the room. First, no toggle launch theater. The mechanics are seductively cheap, and I documented exactly how cheap in the record chapters. HeyMax's stack runs on regional affiliate networks whose coverage already extends to Taiwanese e-commerce. So a Taiwan launch consisting of flipped affiliate campaigns, a Taiwanese phone prefix in the sign-up gate, and a blog post is achievable in weeks. Australia 2023 is the precedent and the verdict. That toggle launch bought a 10-week marketing push, 0 App Store ratings, and abandonment. A shell market that then had to be revived at far greater cost, with the community's memory working against it. The pressure to repeat it here is real and dated. The Series A promised Japan, Taiwan, and Australia by the end of 2026. The July boilerplate reaffirmed it with under 6 months left, and a toggle is the only version of promise-keeping still mechanically available. The tell will be what ships alongside the toggle. No traditional Chinese app, no Taiwan payout rail, no local hire means shell, whatever the press release says. And in Taiwan, a toggle launch does not merely waste money. It spends the one asset this market uniquely offers, the zero-baggage first impression. An audit culture remembers its first audit. English-only earn rates with no data flow answers would fail it in a weekend on PTT permanently. Second, no line dependency. The gravitational pull is enormous by design. 22 million users on a 23 million population. Line points at 13.6 million users, issuing over 7 billion points a year. The whole thing anchored at 1 point equals 1 new Taiwan dollar, with Line Shopping paying those points across 12 million users and 1,500 brands. 6 times Shopback's base, the gatekeeper's own portal. Precisely because of that scale, Line is a gatekeeper, not a partner. Its economics require value to stay inside Line points. And since the IPASS divorce, it has been building its walls higher, standing up its own e-money service that gathered over 2 million users in weeks. Build the core earn and transfer loop inside Line's ecosystem, and HeyMax becomes a feature Line can copy, throttle, or tax at will. The Gcash lesson from the Philippines volume, transposed. The correct posture is distribution only. An official account, campaign placements, nothing structural. Line should be a billboard, never a landlord. Third, no custody features. None, not even the soft kind. The Taiwanese market has just lived through the cautionary tale, and the Rulebook chapter told it in full. JKOPay's founder sentenced in July 2026 to 7 years and a 100 million new Taiwan dollar fine. The headquarters court-sealed the summer before. Corporate funds found, translated, nearly zeroed out. Household merchants suspending acceptance in a cascade. The financial regulator that presided over that collapse is institutionally hostile to anything resembling unlicensed fund pooling. And the regulatory shelter HeyMax enjoys, the bonus points carve-out that keeps free, closed-loop loyalty points outside the Electronic Payment Institutions Act, holds only while the points stay free and closed-loop. The bright lines are too, and they are bright indeed. Never sell max miles for cash in Taiwan, and never let them cash out. Cross either and HeyMax is suddenly a stored value business needing a license, an escrow structure, and the regulator's goodwill. Competing for the regulatory affection that JKOPay just incinerated. The specific product to watch is HeyMax First, the Fly Now Earn Later tier system that is now core monetization. It is exactly the feature most likely to trigger stored value scrutiny if its mechanics cross the border unmodified. Keep it out of the Taiwan version 1 or restructure it with local counsel first. HeyMax's no-custody architecture is its single largest structural advantage in a post-scandal market. The only way to lose that advantage is to build the feature that forfeits it. Fourth, no unanswered data flow questions. I quoted the 2019 PTT interrogation of Shopback in the influencer chapter, and I will invoke it once more because it is the closest thing to a script for HeyMax's first week that exists. Translated, how do you know which card I used? Is that even legal? What data scope was authorized? That audit will rerun on HeyMax with the serial numbers changed. And the only question is whether the answers come from the company or get reverse-engineered by strangers. Publish everything preemptively in traditional Chinese before the first campaign. How affiliate tracking actually works. What data is and is not collected. The privacy law notice. The miles if we die answer. The per merchant earn rates to 2 decimals. In this market, transparency is not a compliance cost. It is the cheapest marketing available because the community's technical reviewers convert documentation into credibility, and credibility cascades downward. The 2019 thread was resolved by community explanation, not corporate public relations. Hand the community the explanation. Fifth, no cashback war. The temptation will arrive dressed as growth marketing. Match Shopback's headline rates. Outbid the God cards. Buy the comparison table win. Resist all of it because the arithmetic is unwinnable and the positioning is self-destroying. Shopback owns the cash position with 8 years of tenure and 840 million new Taiwan dollars paid out in 2025, up 43%. Line owns points as cash at a hard 1-to-1 peg. And the issuers burn roughly 1.5% of interchange on a cashback war so ferocious that the flagship cards pay 3 to 4.5%, capped and toggled, tracked by the community to 2 decimals. A foreign entrant fighting that war fights everyone at once, on their terms, with the smallest budget in the room. And a mile priced against a $1.21 peg loses every percentage comparison anyway, because the mass market will value it at its floor. The open flank is the one none of them can occupy. The aspirational travel currency, where 13,000 miles is a Tokyo round trip and the comparison is not a percentage but a boarding pass. Fight there or nowhere. The corollary prohibition follows from the complexity fatigue evidence. No caps, no category toggles, no registration rituals. The market's own forums groan under it, translated. When I see the dense wall of toggle text, I just close the page. The absence of friction is not a nicety. In this market, it is the product. Ship a registration calendar, and HeyMax becomes one more entry in FUMA Memory's tracker. Ship none, and it becomes the anomaly the tracker's readers notice. Reading the 5 back, I notice they share a single grammar. Each prohibition is a way of appearing to enter Taiwan without actually entering it, or of becoming the thing Taiwan already distrusts. The toggle launch performs entry without building it. Line dependency outsources the market and calls it distribution. Custody features convert a trust advantage into a licensing problem. Unanswered data questions let strangers write the launch narrative. And a cashback war spends the differentiation budget imitating the incumbent's worst habit. The discipline this chapter demands is mostly the discipline of a company under deadline pressure, declining to fake the deadline. Which is why I wrote it before the verdict chapter, not after. What follows is what HeyMax should do. This was what it must not do while doing it, in the one quarter when every wrong option will look like keeping a promise. Chapter 20, Should HeyMax Ship Taiwan? 6 volumes, and every one of them has ended on a version of this question. But Taiwan is the first market that arrives with the question pre-answered by the company itself, answered twice, in writing, with a date attached. Japan, Taiwan, and Australia by the end of 2026, said the Series A announcement in January. Japan, Taiwan, and Australia targeted by the end of 2026 repeated the HeyMax first boilerplate in July, with under 6 months left on the clock. So this verdict has to rule on 2 different things, and it matters that they are different. The promise and the entry. My ruling is that the promise as written is not credible, and that an entry is nonetheless worth doing. A specific one, at a specific price, under a specific org chart. Take the promise first, because the evidence is brutal in its consistency. 5 months from the deadline, the production record shows a sign-up gate holding 4 phone prefixes, none of them Taiwan's. A Taiwan flag asset that returns a not-found error. No Taiwan dollar logic anywhere. A payout schema that knows only Pay Now and FPS Taiwan absent even from the voucher country list. And the finding I keep returning to, an app whose store listing declares exactly one language, English, 3 years in and 1 Hong Kong launch later. There is no Chinese build to adapt because none exists. The careers ledger has never shown a Taiwan or Mandarin role. The Help Center has never carried a Taiwan article. Joe Liu has never said the word Taiwan outside roadmap boilerplate. And the promise itself flickers. First made in May 2025, 7 weeks after EVA quietly joined the roster. Repeated at the Series A, then silently dropped from the March 2026 headquarters press release, which spoke only of entering into new markets like Hong Kong and Japan. Then reaffirmed in July as a closing paragraph in an announcement about something else. Every leading indicator that preceded the real Hong Kong entry, the acquisition, the general manager, the flagship partner announced in market, the subdomain, the help articles, is absent for Taiwan. Of the 3 promised markets, Taiwan is the least prepared. Australia at least kept its wiring. Japan built a genuine business development trail through the pitch circuit and the JAL press cycle. Taiwan has 1 roster line. A real Hong Kong grade entry by December is not going to happen, and I will say so without hedging. What could still happen is theater, and the series has seen the play before. An Australia 2023-style toggle affiliate campaigns flipped on, the Taiwanese phone prefix added, a blog post published, is mechanically achievable in weeks. And it is the only version of promise keeping still available in the window. If it ships, read it by its tells. No traditional Chinese app, no Taiwan payout rail, no local hire means shell, whatever the press release says. The Australian volume priced that move precisely. A 10-week push, 0 ratings, abandonment, and a revival years later that had to be conducted against the community's memory. In an audit culture, the cost is higher still. And yet the answer to this chapter's title is yes, because the entry worth doing is not the entry that was promised. It is the corridor first build of the architecture chapter, run under the North Asia unit on 3 named rails: JAL, Starlux, Happy Geo. The JAL wedge is live today, 1-to-1 and fee-free, pointed at the 6.7 million Taiwanese trips to Japan a year that no Taiwanese bank, coalition, or wallet can serve with a JAL rail of its own. It requires nobody's permission. Only the localization floor and a payout answer. Starlux is the anchor. COSMILE with 0 transfer partners by the directory's own count. Alliance denied listed, newly profitable, premium cabins scaling into North America, reachable through the Etihad warmth with eSun attached. The once-per-market chance to be a program's first-ever transfer partner. Happy Geo is the interconnect. The one coalition whose JKOPay partnership proves it signs external, international rails. And the quiet EVA line deepens in year 2, announced at last to the audience it was built for. The lean version costs $300,000 to $400,000 for the first year. My estimate, labeled as ever, which is option money, gated at every phase, reversible at every gate. HeyMax already paid for the option. This is merely the sequence that exercises it. A verdict without falsifiers is a mood, so here are mine in both directions. I am wrong about the promise if the watch list moves. If the Taiwanese phone prefix and the Taiwan flag appear in production. If a traditional Chinese language code enters the app listing. If a Taiwan-based or Mandarin-required role posts to the careers system. If a Taiwanese consumer merchant, Momo, Pchome, Shopee Taiwan, moves from dormant card database record to live earning integration. If the EVA partnership is finally announced to a Taiwanese audience in Chinese. If a Taiwan dollar payout method joins PayNow and FPS in the redemption schema. Any 3 of those by October, and a real entry is underway, and this volume's skepticism should be revised in public. As of the 6th of August, none is moving. And I am wrong about the recommendation if the anchor logic breaks. If Starlux signs its first transfer partner and it is not HeyMax, the architecture loses its headline and reverts to a corridor niche. If Cathay's interconnect machine, which has already signed line points, OPNPOINT, Happy Geo, UUPON, Rakuten's points, and Pchome's P-coins as converters, ever adds multi-airline optionality, the empty slot this entire thesis rests on closes. And if the corridor gates miss, the users, the acquisition cost, above all the transfer volume, then Taiwan reverts to what it already is. A destination its Singaporean members fly to, no harm done. Falsifiable is the point. Theater has no falsifiers. That leaves the synthesis, because 6 volumes are now a data set, and what they measure is the distance between what a company says and what it builds. Read the verdicts in a row. Singapore, trust first at home. The market where the model was proven and where the death of cash for miles had to be survived on transparency, because home is where trust is manufactured before it is exported. Hong Kong, number 2 behind Cathay by the end of 2027 if visibility first executes. The one real entry, made with an acquisition, a general manager, and a flagship partner, and still contingent on being seen. The Philippines, not now. Beachhead plus diaspora plus prepositioning, because the economics were early and the anchor never offered itself. Australia, the number 1 effort-adjusted revival, strictly conditional on velocity. No deal, no entry, because a market once burned by theater forgives infrastructure, not marketing. The UAE, partnership before entry, with full entry a 2027 decision. Buy the Etihad option, defer the market. And now Taiwan, the promised market, where the promise is the least credible artifact on file and the unannounced EVA rail is the most credible one. Corridor first under North Asia, on Starlux plus JAL plus Happy Geo. The theme underneath, the one this series kept finding without looking for it, is the triangle of promises, options, and anchors. Promises are claims about the future made for present purposes, funding rounds mostly, and the record says to price them near zero. Korea was promised once and vanished. Taiwan was promised, dropped, and repromised by the same company in the same year. Options are the opposite instrument. Quiet, cheap, real. The EVA rail is the purest option in 6 volumes, signed into the post-purge roster when HeyMax was cutting partners, hosted in traditional Chinese on the airline's own servers, told to no one. Options decay if unexercised. Australia's kept wiring with dead partners shows what a rotted option looks like. And anchors are what convert an option into a market. Every entry this series has endorsed rests on exactly one hungry partner. Cathay adjacent visibility in Hong Kong, velocity in Australia, Etihad in the UAE, Starlux in Taiwan, and both markets I said no to for the lack of one. The doctrine compressed, ignore the promises, buy the options, enter only where an anchor is hungry. So should HeyMax ship Taiwan? Yes, the corridor, not the promise. Let the end of 2026 date lapse or rescope it honestly, because keeping it now would mean faking it. Ship the traditional Chinese build, the JAL story, the Starlux signature, the Happy Geo rail in that order behind gates. Somewhere on EVA's servers sits a May 2026 transfer guide, written in the language of a market HeyMax has never addressed, explaining a product its readers cannot join. It is the strangest artifact in 6 volumes, a promise kept before it was made by the partner instead of the company. The entry worth doing is the one that makes that page make sense.